Chapter 1026 You are a mermaid, and not an octopus. A courier that utilized birds to send objects was not cheap, but to Derek, it was still acceptable. After all, he could earn quite a hefty remuneration for his column every month. I wonder how the readers would react to this culinary review after they read it. I am really anticipating the outcome. Derek looked at a bird that flew out of the courier station after he came out with a smile on his face. Should I go and eat eggplant with garlic sauce again tonight? Since there aren't any other nice foods, I will continue eating eggplant with garlic sauce. Eggplant with garlic sauce. It was indeed a dish with an amazing power. Big brother, are we really going to find that guy and compete in roasting chicken with him? Eugene asked Fabian as he let out the blood of a chicken in a courtyard in the north of the city. Since we already acknowledged the challenge yesterday, we have to go. Otherwise, he would think we are afraid of him, Fabian said smilingly. Who is afraid? We are definitely not afraid. Our skills were passed down from our ancestors, nobody in our tribe can make roast chicken better than us. Everyone who ate our roast chicken said it was good. He must be jealous of our good business, and thus he deliberately came to make trouble for us. We shall go to his restaurant to compete with him so he knows who is the king of roast chicken. Eugene said proudly. Fabian again reminded, it's only a competition. Do not create trouble later. We have finally settled down in Chaos City with a regular stall and a small courtyard. We'd better obey the rules here if you don't want to go back and hunt again. I know. Eugene waved his hands nonchalantly and continued to dress the chicken. This is the new sea that Mr. Mag built for me? Mag brought Gina to the room next to theirs after she woke up from her 3-hour-long nap. She gazed at the 2 meters tall, 3 meters long, and 2 meters wide fish tank with excitement and gratitude in her eyes. This is where you will stay temporarily. Mag was very satisfied with Gina's expression. Thank you, Mr. Mag. Gina jumped up and hugged Mag, wrapping her legs around him uncontrollably again. You are a mermaid, and not an octopus, all right? Mag pried the excited Gina off him with some effort as he complained in his heart. Gina didn't care about Mag's feelings. She stripped her clothes off, climbed up the ladder, and leaped into the giant fish tank. She began swimming happily. It should be described as a small swimming pool instead of a fish tank. Mag stood at a side and watched Gina, who was swimming like a fish through the glass. When compared with her awkward movements on land, she did indeed belong to the sea. Mr. Mag, do you want to join me? Gina waved at Mag as she lay upon the glass. I can't withstand it, I can't withstand it. Mag shook his head and escaped. Does Mr. Mag dislike me? Gina watched Mag disappear at the door, feeling rather disappointed. Nobody had told her what was love. Saving Lantist was her only mission in her 18 years of life. But she knew about reciprocation. Since Mr. Mag had saved her and would be saving Lantist in the future, she was willing to give everything to him. Gina's arrival did have some impact on the restaurant. Due to the language barrier, Mag didn't let her get involved in the restaurant's daily operations. Instead, he let her move about freely. However, Gina would help out with some simple tasks on her own accord. She liked children and all kinds of aquatic products, and could always get along very well with them despite the language barrier. Mag was rather surprised by that as he looked at Gina, who was having fun playing with strings with Amy. That could be considered as a gift too. However, the time that Gina could stay out of the fish tank was still 3 hours. She had to go back to the fish tank to rest whenever time was up. But, as her power recovered, her rest period got shorter. Sometimes she only needed to go back for a quick soak. After a day of operations, Mag was the only one left in the kitchen alone late at night. The results of the delicious cuisine rankings will be announced tomorrow. I wonder if I will get number 1 for every category. Mag mumbled to himself as he applied mud onto a lotus leaf. The system's mission of conquering the rankings was a little ridiculous. The return of the delicious cuisine rankings was to reshape credibility. If Mamie Restaurant conquered every category of the rankings, that would look like a lack of credibility. Even though Mag felt that President Robert was a nice person, as the top decision-maker, he would have to interfere and balance the rules of the game if a restaurant ranked first for every category. Otherwise, this ranking would look very awkward. Mag had no control over the results whatsoever, but tomorrow came another issue that Mag had to solve as well. Dueling with the roast chicken Orc brothers hadn't been his intention, but since the system had already issued the mission, he had no other choice but to accept. If it was just about defeating them, Mag felt that he could make a better roast chicken than the Orc brothers by simply tossing the chicken into the microwave oven. However, the system had requested a perfect beggar's chicken, and that was more demanding. He had used all his free time in the past 3 days to figure out how to make a scrumptious beggar's chicken. He had already utilized the recipe and experience to the extreme, yet he kept failing. After putting Amy to bed, Mag went downstairs quietly to make beggar's chicken again. The ingredients were provided by the system. That 3 yellow chicken was reared by the system in the Forest Troll's Holy Land, Angolo Canyon, and the yellow mud was even obtained from the depth of 1,000 meters beneath the Tottery Desert. Tottery Desert was the vastest desert on Norland continent. Its annual precipitation was close to zero. It was extremely dry, and even magic beasts couldn't survive there. It was known as the Land of Death. But nobody would expect that the mud that was hidden underneath the desert was even smoother than the Euxing pottery clay. And the system actually provided Mag this mud, which was highly sought after by famous potters, as the wrapping mud for his beggar's chicken. Mag only had one comment for this: perfect. The yellow mud was wrapped evenly around the lotus leaf. Then, Mag placed it carefully in the preheated oven. The oven, which was improvised by the system, had shortened the baking time from 4 hours to half an hour. Mag washed his hands and set an alarm before he sat down and waited quietly. This was his last chance. If he had failed again, the time for this mission would be up, and that meant the mission had ended. Ding! The alarm rang. Mag turned it off and walked toward the oven. He used a spade to retrieve the beggar's chicken, whose outer casing was already fiery red from the oven. Right at this moment, Gina appeared at the kitchen entrance as she rubbed her eyes, and perplexedly asked Mag, "What are you doing, Mr. Mag?" Mag. Chapter 1027. Is she so hungry that she has to resort to eating mud? Is Mr. Mag making something delicious for himself secretly? Gina looked at that yellow mud parcel in front of Mag. Mag being alone in the kitchen so late at night indeed seemed very weird. Mag turned around in surprise when he heard her voice and saw Gina in her school swimsuit. Although he didn't understand what she was talking about, he could guess from her expression. He pointed at the beggar's chicken, which was still unwrapped, with a smile and said, "I am roasting beggar's chicken. I can have some too?" Gina's eyes lit up immediately. After tasting all the delicacies that Mag made for the past 2 days, Gina's reverence for Mag had reached the pinnacle. She had observed that Mag was trying to come up with something, and that seemed to be the final product. Mag smilingly explained, "This is a new product. Help me with a taste test, please." Although Gina couldn't understand, scrumptious food didn't need many words. All it needed was the presentation. The red-hot yellow mud cooled rapidly after the beggar's chicken was removed from the oven. The smooth surface had a texture that resembled some porcelain pottery with some veined patterns. It looked like it was wrapped in a layer of eggshell and resembled an oval egg. Is this roast egg? But what kind of egg is this? Why is it so big? Gina thought curiously. Were they going to crack the egg open to eat it? Mag got a small hammer from the side and knocked gently at the center of the beggar's chicken. Following a crisp cracking sound, cracks spread out from the point of contact. The oval-shaped mud shell opened up like a flower, and revealed the golden brown and glistening beggar's chicken. The rich aroma of roast chicken was released instantly and filled the entire kitchen. The whole house smelled fantastic. There is such a big bird in this egg. Could it be some kind of magic beast? Gina was a little taken aback. But, she was attracted by the aroma quickly. Her eyes lit up as she couldn't help taking a deep sniff. Smells so good. The aroma of this dish was more direct and enthusiastic than the aroma of braised chicken and rice. She could even feel its heat, just like the intense sensation the desert that she went to during her first teleportation brought her. However, the difference was that the desert gave her a sense of fear and helplessness, but this aroma gave her a sense of vitality. The sleepiness went away instantly, and her stomach began to rumble. The color and aroma should be fine. Mag nodded in satisfaction as he looked at that golden brown beggar's chicken. The chicken's aroma was very rich, and had a tinge of the lotus leaf's refreshing smell. As it had just come out of the oven, there was a hint of heat in the aroma. It made them salivate even before they put the meat in their mouths. He had tried the beggar's chicken in Changshu a few times before. The taste was still alright as it was done by quite a reputed chef there. However, when it came to comparing their color and aroma, due to the superiority of ingredients and the combined experience from all the best, Mag's beggar's chicken surpassed all those he had eaten before. Thus, the article he wrote on Weibo then wasn't too bad, as there was indeed room for improvements. However, all these so-called established restaurants had begun to be complacent and even lost their essence because of over-commercialization. Mag's beggar's chicken preparation method was in between the original approach and Suzhou's approach. The deplumation of the chicken was done in advance, but no other ingredients were stuffed into the chicken's stomach except an appropriate amount of spices. This was to ensure that the chicken's original flavor was preserved. Of course, the scene where a simple knock on the mud shell made it open like a flower was very entertaining to watch. If it was on Earth, it would become a famous dish on a certain talk instantly. The beggar's chicken had already revealed itself. The simplest and most barbaric method to eat it was just to tear a thigh off and bite into it. Of course, although this beggar style of approach was very satisfying, it didn't really suit a girl like their tester for the day, Gina. If she had to eat like that, her image of a graceful mermaid would be damaged. Therefore, Mag put down the hammer and went to get a knife. Slicing the beggar's chicken was less particular as compared to the Peking duck because every part like the wings, claws, and even the bones were considered delicious. All it needed was to be cut into bite sizes. If it was done too daintily, the soul would be lost. Beggar's chicken was a dish created by beggars, just like the name suggested. It only became a respected dish in restaurants when the majority of people accepted it. Therefore, it was also kind of fun to use their hands to eat it if they were not particular. Gina stared at the mud shell as Mag went to get a knife. The outside of the shell was yellow, but a layer of greenish-yellow lotus leaf was stuck to the inside. It was very thin and looked quite enticing as it seemed rather crispy. Can this be eaten? It should be fine to just eat a tiny piece. I would just eat a tiny shattered piece of it. Gina had an internal struggle before she picked up a piece of the shattered mud at the side of the tray. The thin casing was still a little warm to the touch. Gina put it under her nose and sniffed it. There was a fragrance of the lotus leaf coupled with the aroma of the roast chicken. Beside these, there was another amazing smell that greeted her nose with the heat as if a hand had gripped her heart suddenly. Eat it! A voice rose up in her heart as if it was guiding her. Crack! Her white teeth bit into the mud casing, and made a sound that resembled biting into a cracker. It was a little hard and still a little hot, but Gina's face lit up instantly. There was a hint of sweetness amid the light lotus leaf's fragrance. The more she chewed, the more delicious it got. It's fantastic! Mag, who turned around after getting the knife, stared at Gina in a stupor as he watched her eat the mud casing happily. His expression became weird. Is she so hungry that she has to resort to eating mud? He wondered if he should tell her that this mud casing was inedible. But, at the same time, he was worried that he might hurt her pride if he told her that. He picked up a piece of the mud casing and bit it after some pondering. Crack! Mag spat out the intact mud casing. His front teeth had almost fallen out. That casing was almost as hard as a rock after going through the high heat treatment in the oven. Mag marveled at the mermaid's strong bite force as he stared at Gina, who was chewing happily. Then, he put down the mud casing in his hands slowly. After biting the casing into small pieces, she swallowed them. "It's so hot!" Gina suddenly grabbed her throat and cried. Gina took the glass and downed the water in a few big gulps. Mag seemed to hear a shhh sound as if hot coal was extinguished by water. Gina put down the glass and heaved a long breath in relief. Her red face was full of sweat and satisfaction. She thought she had swallowed a ball of fire earlier, and it was burning all the way down her throat. The seawater reserve in her body was almost all depleted, but that glass of ice water doused the huge fire instantly like a rainstorm. She felt that short instant was as long as 100 years, and that feeling of satiation actually mesmerized her. So satisfying. There was only one feeling in her heart right now. She didn't even feel that when she was soaking in the hot spring in a volcanic crater at the bottom of the sea. She soothed her breathing to calm herself down, and then a shocked expression appeared on her face. "I am breathing in air now." Gina was totally stunned. She tried to take in a breath again, and her heart began to beat instantly. For so many years, the Lantistines hadn't been able to solve the problem of breathing in air. This was also the greatest obstacle preventing the Lantistines from returning to the continent. After thousands of years and generations of hard work, the Lantistines finally found a substitution solution. That was to make their people practice the reservoir chant so they could store excess water in their bodies and then complete the process of breathing inside their bodies. Fundamentally speaking, the Lantistines didn't solve the problem of breathing. Instead, they had only resorted to using a trick to enable the merfolk to look like humans for a short period of time, and so they could live on land. However, its limitations were huge. Gina was already the best in Lantist apart from the High Priest, yet she could only stay in the air for 3 hours before she had to return to the seawater to rest and store water. Furthermore, during this process, her power would rapidly decrease from 8th tier in the sea to 4th tier, and as time went on, it would continue to decrease. If this problem remained unsolved, Lantistines would be a weak race that could easily be abused by others even if they could return to the continent. For this, Lantist had tried for thousands of years and racked their brains, but to no avail. But now, Gina was able to breathe in air. Furthermore, after she no longer had to maintain her breathing, her power returned to 8th tier, which was no different than in the sea. Gina was in a daze. She even wondered if she was still in her dream. She grabbed Mag's hand and placed it on her face. A warm feeling could be clearly felt, and it cleared her mind. There was a sensation. "It's real. I can really breathe in the air now." Gina was so agitated and surprised that she almost jumped up. Mag stared at Gina, who looked like she had swallowed a piece of hot coal initially and then became ecstatic shortly after, with a strange expression. What was she doing? "Are you still okay, Gina?" Mag asked tentatively. It would be his fault if she turned into an idiot after eating that piece of mud casing. Gina jumped up and hugged Mag with gratitude as she said, "Thank you, Mr. Mag." She finally knew why God had chosen Mr. Mag, because he had the power to give Lantist new life. He was the savior of Lantist. What is she trying to do now? Mag raised his hands up and stared at Gina, who was clinging onto him like an octopus, in a daze. However, he could sense Gina's excitement as the body that was close to his had already passed the rapidly beating heartbeat to him. It took Mag a while to pry Gina off his body. Gina pointed at the mud casing and gestured with a flushed face. "Mr. Mag, can I eat this?" She was already 100% sure that the change was brought about by eating this fiery hot eggshell. Although she already could breathe in a certain amount of air, there was still a difference from breathing in water. She wanted to know if eating more of the eggshell would help make her breathing smoother. Mag pointed at the beggar's chicken, and helplessly said, "Actually, this is the dish that I want you to try." The food testing had gone haywire since Gina picked up that piece of mud casing. But, even though that chicken's aroma was enticing, Gina's thoughts were all upon that eggshell. She wanted to know if eating enough of the eggshell would make her breathe as easily as if she was in the sea. This was very important to her. Mag guessed that maybe Gina loved eating that hard mud casing because she had pica. After all, there were even people who loved to eat iron nails and glass, so eating mud didn't seem to be a big deal. Thus, he nodded. You can bring it upstairs as your supper if you really like it. Let's try the beggar's chicken now. Otherwise, it will lose its soul when it gets cold. After using a Chinese cleaver to make a few cuts on the beggar's chicken, Mag gave Gina a chicken drumstick. The roasted chicken's skin was still glistening with oil, and the meat was steaming hot. A strong chicken fragrance greeted their noses and attracted Gina's attention even though she was staring at the eggshell. She accepted the drumstick hesitantly. Eat it. Mag made an eating gesture. Gina bit into the drumstick. The crispy skin fell away easily, and the tender chicken meat melted in her mouth. A taste that belonged to chicken's tenderness and freshness exploded instantly, and her taste buds surrendered immediately. She couldn't even chew a few more times before it glided down her throat like a naughty chick. Tender and not dry, coupled with an unique taste. This unexpected delicate taste swept Gina into a scrumptious vortex. The tender chicken meat consoled the throat that was agitated by the hot eggshell gently like a nourishing and silent spring rain. And once the meat entered into the stomach, it became a warm current and seeped into her limbs. If that hot eggshell was giving an exciting sauna to her, then the delicious chicken meat was a gentle and comfortable massage that relaxed her tensed-up muscles. Wow! This unbelievable taste! Gina had an expression of pleasure. She felt relaxed all over as if she was lying among soft clouds. She didn't even notice that her breathing had become much smoother. You two are eating supper behind my back, an angry voice said. Chapter 1029 Don't you love me anymore? Then, she came in and snatched the drumstick away from Mag before biting into it. Oh! It's so delicious! Amy's eyes lit up instantly, and her indignation became surprise. Her sleepiness was gone immediately, and she munched on the drumstick happily. Her big blue eyes were shiny and bright as if she was eating the most divine food in the world. She continued eating non-stop blissfully. Mag watched Amy indulgently. A foodie would definitely not miss a supper. System, is this attempt of beggar's chicken successful? Mag asked in his heart. Right at the moment, the system's voice sounded. The taste, color, and aroma are all present. The host had reached your own requirements for beggar's chicken in the past for this attempt of beggar's chicken with regards to the control of heat and the control of condiments. Congratulations, host, your mission is a success. You will receive one opportunity to spin the God of Cookery upgrade wheel. Mag looked at the shiny lucky draw chance that appeared in his mind, and heaved a sigh of relief secretly. This could be considered as a milestone for Mag's culinary journey as he didn't enter the test field for the God of Cookery, and had only spent 3 days before he came up with a scrumptious beggar's chicken. The pressure made him more focused on cooking, and the lower margin of error made him force himself to improve. This attempt of making beggar's chicken made him feel more intense and improved tremendously. Amy shattered the bone as she indignantly asked Mag, "Father, don't you love me anymore? How could that ever happen? Father loves Amy the most." Mag shook his head rapidly as he patted Amy's head. Did this little one have a nightmare? But, you made such a scrumptious roast chicken, and yet you didn't wake me up to eat it. Amy felt even more indignant. Glancing at Gina, she said, "You must love big sister Gina more. That's why you only woke her up to eat it." Gina, who was chewing on a bone, looked at Amy in a confusion. She had no idea what she was saying, so she continued to gnaw on the bone. Mag was exasperated as he didn't expect the little one to be unhappy over that. He smilingly said, "This is the new product that I was tinkering with for the past few days. Do you remember that we agreed to have a roast chicken duel with the 2 orc uncles at the bazaar that day? Tomorrow is the duel day, and that's why Father was roasting chicken so late at night. Big sister Gina, like you, has woken up herself and came down when she heard the sounds. Therefore, father invited her to try the new product. We didn't eat supper behind Amy's back. Instead, we are preparing a delicious roast chicken for Amy and keeping the best of the best for you. Really? Amy was happier after hearing that. Of course. Mag passed her a chicken wing with a smile. Amy received the chicken wing happily. She nodded as she said, "I trust father." Mag was relieved secretly. It was fortunate that the little one could be appeased by a chicken wing. Otherwise, a man and a woman eating chicken in the kitchen late at night. If word got out, it would be really hard to explain. Since Gina and Amy were eating happily, Mag took a chicken wing to try himself. The roasted wing was a little crispy, but the texture was more delicate compared to fried chicken. The refreshing fragrance of the lotus leaf neutralized the greasiness perfectly, and made the roast chicken scrumptious and not heavy. The crispy chicken skin and tender meat both gave Mag quite an intricate feel of the texture. The shattered chicken bones even became more delicious as he continued to chew on it. Unknowingly, Mag ate the entire chicken wing including the bones. This 3-yellow chicken was raised in the Trolls' Holy Land, Angolo Canyon, and grew up eating the seeds of trees. The meat was soft and tender with an excellent texture. Maybe due to the system's so-called magnetic field effect, the meat was also full of abundant nutrients, and had an excellent effect on removing humidity in the body. This is the authentic beggar's chicken. Mag nodded with satisfaction. Those chickens he had eaten before were simply too weak when compared to this. The three of them quickly devoured that roast chicken, but they still wanted more. Gina pointed at the mud casing, and hesitantly asked, "Can I eat this? Can this eggshell be eaten?" Amy asked curiously as she picked up a piece and bit down. She swiftly removed it and looked at the 2 indentations on it. She shook her head, and said, "Big sister Gina, this is too hard. Gina, if you are still hungry, I can cook something else for you." Mag pointed at the fridge. Gina almost choked to death eating that mud casing earlier. Gina pointed at the mud casing, and determinedly said, "I want to eat this." Mag hesitated for a moment after seeing Gina's determination. Then, he nodded. "All right then. But please take smaller bites so you won't choke again." "Thank you, Mr. Mag." Gina was ecstatic, and she attempted to give Mag an octopus hug again. However, Mag managed to avoid her agilely. His child was present, it was not good to have too many physical interactions in front of her. This kind of interaction should only be conducted privately. Gina went upstairs happily with the mud casing. Mag also brought Amy upstairs to sleep after he cleared the kitchen. Meow Ugly Duckling lay near the edge of the bed and looked at the pair of father and daughter sadly. "Ugly Duckling, I care about you because you got to slim down. You have to stop thinking about eating supper, or else you will get fat." Amy rubbed Ugly Duckling's chubby cheeks, and smilingly said, "Only people like us, who won't get fat no matter how much we eat, deserve supper. That hurts my feelings." Ugly Duckling plopped backwards in despair, with all 4 of its legs in the air, and declined to comment any more. "Good night, father." Amy climbed onto the bed by herself and lightly kicked Ugly Duckling, who was lying on the blanket, to the end of the bed. Then, she crawled under the blanket and said good night to Mag before closing her eyes. Mag lay on his bed and stared at the lucky draw's chance in his head. He decided to keep this chance for a while longer after some hesitation. He would decide what to do after the results of the delicious cuisine rankings were announced the next day. He had already made plans for the worst. Keeping this chance would at least give him an extra chip. Have you heard about it? The results of the all-new delicious cuisine rankings will be announced at 11 a.m. today. Of course I have. I even know that the Food Association has done away with the voting system and changed to having a group of mystery judges to pass judgment for a list of rankings. This sounds rather fair. Maybe the days of seeking out the good food with the rankings will be back again. It may not happen. The delicious cuisine rankings had already disappointed me for a number of years. I really hope they are not just putting old wine in new bottles. Many people were already talking about the impending results of the delicious cuisine rankings early this morning. My God! This is too amazing! Gina cried softly in excitement next to the huge fish tank. The problem that had plagued the Lantistines for 1,000 years, the curse that had imprisoned the merfolk in the deep sea, was resolved so easily. If she had not experienced everything herself, she wouldn't have believed it. All this possible just because she ate a chicken? There weren't any complicated practices, nor any painful procedures. She had attained the ability to breathe on land simply by eating a chicken blissfully. Gina placed her hands on her chest and reverently said, God, thank you for guiding me to find the man that you chose. You lifted the curse on me and showed Lantist a way to the light. I will give everything to serve the spokesperson that you have chosen. In the deep part of the boundless sea realm, where the sunlight couldn't reach, everywhere was pitch black. Only the light from the gemstones shone in certain places. The center altar. The high priest, who was wearing a black robe, sat in the middle of the altar. 6 illuminating gemstones lit up the altar. A red and golden flame was dancing slowly but strongly in front of the high priest. A merman wearing a golden robe and crown agitatedly said, High priest, Gina's flame of life is still burning, and it's becoming brighter and brighter as if she is still in Lantist. Maybe she has already found the chosen one. Gina is fine. That's fantastic, a mermaid who was also wearing similar noble robes said chokingly with an excited expression. If Gina hasn't returned to the sea realm, she should have met the chosen one and removed the curse. Otherwise, merfolk wouldn't be able to maintain their peak abilities on land, the high priest said in a hoarse voice, also filled with excitement. Yes. The merfolk surrounding the altar were all ecstatic. But, the teleportation stones were all utilized by Princess Gina. How are we going to go to the chosen one? If we cannot meet him, we are not able to lift the curse. The merfolk around the altar began to quiet down as they became aware of the problem. The Lantistines were trapped thousands of meters below the sea, and the chosen one was only a human. It was impossible for him to come and save them at this depth. If Gina has already met him, she will try her best to bring him back. This is her calling and what she has been working toward for the past 18 years. She is the best seeker. The high priest's voice rang and reverberated through Lantist. It's so comfortable to breathe in air now, and it's just like breathing in the sea. Furthermore, I can eat the delicacies that Mr. Mag cooked every day and gaze at his handsome face. It's so comfortable that I don't even feel like going back to Lantist. Mr. Mag is only a human, so he can't breathe under the sea. If I brought him back to Lantist, he would definitely drown. No. I cannot let Mr. Mag drown. What should I do if he drowns? But, what would happen to my people if I didn't bring him back? Gina thought hard as she ate Yongzhou fried rice. However, she still couldn't come up with any good ideas even after racking her brains. Since there's no solution, I will just enjoy myself. However, she let things go very soon after, and immersed herself in the delicacy in front of her. Mr. Mag, do you have any tasks for me to do? Gina pulled Mag aside after breakfast, and gestured at the ladies who were getting ready for opening hours. These beautiful young ladies were all very hard-working. Mr. Mag had done so much for her, and even provided her with shelter and delicious food. How could she idle around and not do anything? Therefore, she also wanted to contribute to the restaurant. If you want to help, Mag looked at Gina. Due to the language incompatibility, she couldn't be a server, and as someone used to eating her food raw, she obviously had no talent and ability in cooking. After much pondering, Mag decided to let Gina pacify the customers' children when they were in the restaurant. There were many rules in Mamie restaurant that endeavored to create a conducive environment for the customers' dining experience. However, all these rules were indecipherable for those innocent little kids. As the numbers of customers increased, there were also more crying and fussing children that affected the customers' dining ambience. This had also created a problem for him. Because of Amy, he had begun to empathize with the parents' difficulties. A rule that banned children from entering was too cold and unfeeling, so he wasn't willing to set it. Gina's initiative had given Mag a new idea. Playing with the children. Gina finally understood Mag's meaning after a while. She instantly nodded and smiled. I love children the most. I believe I can successfully complete my task. Then, I will have to trouble you, Mag replied with a smile too. Amy had gone to the magic potion shop for her lessons by herself, and the restaurant began its operation. Due to the tofu pudding's amazing cosmetic effects, many housewives came to line up before the restaurant early in the morning. To them, making themselves look younger and prettier was a secret weapon for keeping their men, who gradually liked to stay out, at home. The tofu pudding's cosmetic effects were very obvious, and had rejuvenated many married ladies, so it was gradually getting famous in the rich and noble ladies' circle. The young married ladies usually came with children, and many of those children still need to be carried. They couldn't bear to leave them home, hence, very soon after service started, crying of children could be heard. Furthermore, this crying seemed to be infectious. 1 became 2 and 2 became 4. Soon, the crying could be heard throughout the restaurant. Although the customers didn't say anything, displeasure could be seen on their faces. Everyone just wanted to eat their breakfast in peace and start their new day happily, but all these piercing cries made them feel frustrated. They couldn't calm down and enjoy their food even when they had delicacies in front of them. The mothers with children apologized embarrassingly and tried to pacify their children, but these children seemed to be in a competition where they were trying to outdo one another with their crying, and they had no intention of stopping. Little guy, watch this little fishy do a flip. Right at this moment, Gina came out of the kitchen carrying a small basin. There was a red carp in it. She approached a crying child with a smile and waved her finger in the air. The red carp in the basin leaped out of the water, did a flip in midair, and returned to the basin again without splashing a drop of water. That child stopped crying instantaneously, and stared at the red carp with teary eyes as if he had seen something unbelievable. One more. Gina's finger waved again. The red carp leaped up high again, did a flip, and went back to the basin. Hee hee. That child laughed happily and even started to clap. Chapter 1031. Did Uncle Mag do something weird to Big Sister Gina? Of course, there were also several customers who were captivated by Gina's performance. A normal-looking red carp would actually be able to do different things under her command as though it was very smart. The customers thoroughly enjoyed her performance. I am a genius indeed. Mag looked at the smiling faces of the children and also smiled. It was very important to improve the customers' dining experience, and that was also an important point to gain the customers' satisfaction. As a perfectionist, Mag was unable to deal with children crying at the side while eating. Now, Gina was able to make the children smile through an almost mute performance, and the occasional laughter would instead make one laugh along unconsciously. The mothers who brought the children along thanked Gina gratefully. They were naturally aware of the rules in Mamie restaurant. If their children were to kick up a fuss every time they came, they would be too ashamed to bring them along the next time. In that case, they could only let their children wait in the horse-drawn carriage while they finished their food quickly and go back to them. However, they would not be able to enjoy the food properly that way. But right now, this beautiful lady could use her little magic to make the children smile and become obedient. Thank you, Mr. Mag. Gina said slowly to Mag after the morning operating hours before giving him a big hug with a broad smile. That was the phrase that she heard the most this morning. She could understand the meaning of the two words based on the expressions on the young mothers' faces, and she felt very accomplished. So something so simple can actually help so many people. The feeling of being thanked was very extraordinary. There was a very long period of time when she felt that she was just a tool to help Lantist break its curse. For 18 years, she lived only to break that curse. Even her father did not show her any concern. When they met, he only talked about the curse and training. Her people respected her, but she knew that it was only because she was carrying the responsibility of saving Lantist. Only her mother would show her some concern when no one was around. But today, she felt the sincere gratitude from these young mothers, and also the gaze of admiration and acknowledgement from the customers. All because she had a little talent in making little fishes do tricks. This sense of accomplishment made her feel moved and agitated. And to her, all these were given to her by Mag. He let her know that other than breaking the curse, she was able to achieve other things as well as gain the acknowledgement of others. Everyone who was clearing up the restaurant watched wide-eyed as Gina hugged Mag tightly. Big sister Gina is hugging Uncle Mag. This seems like a dangerous action. Anna stood in the corner, deep in thought. What is Gina doing? Yabimiya asked curiously. Maybe she likes him, Elizabeth said calmly. How can she act so fast? Babla was astonished. Yet, how could she be so fast? I came first. Firis clenched her fists tightly. Strange, I am the good-looking one. Why do all the ladies set their eyes on him? Could the world have already changed? Shirley propped her chin on her hand and studied Mag with bewilderment. You're welcome, Mag said with a smile while shaking his head, all this while carefully pressing Gina's legs, which were about to wrap around him, down and pushing her arms away. He could feel Gina's happiness and bliss, but he had to reject the octopus-like benefit for his happiness. Besides, he was not sure why Gina thanked him. He should be the one thanking her. After all, she was free labor. However, why did she look so happy to be used? That made him feel really sinful. After he had finally separated from Gina, who had calmed down, Mag let out a cough, and seriously told the rest. Gina wanted to express her love for her new job, but because of the language barrier, she could only express it through body language. There's actually nothing between us. Everyone rolled their eyes in obvious disbelief of his words. Uncle Mag, are you trying to cover your tracks? Anna asked curiously. You even know how to use idioms now. Mag raised his brow. It was even quite appropriate for some reason. All right, since we're all done cleaning up, go on for a rest. Mag also thought that he was making things worse by saying that. There was really nothing much going on at first, but after he said that, it did feel like something was going on. He glanced at the clock on the wall, and told Gina, right, Gina, you should be going back to your fish tank to rest, right? It's been 3 hours already. Gina shook her head and pointed to the air, and then at her nose. She took a deep breath and let out a sweet smile. You can breathe in air already. Mag was astonished. Gina nodded. That's great. Mag felt an inexplicable sense of disappointment. For the past few days, he had been trying to familiarize himself with her lifestyle habits. She would always go back to the fish tank to rest for a while after staying out for 3 hours. That was a very interesting habit that made Mag feel that he was rearing a mermaid. But now, she could actually breathe in air. That meant that she would not need to return to the fish tank anymore. That's great. In that case, Gina would be able to go out and play without worrying about breathing, Yabimiya said with a smile. For the past few days, they had not dared to bring Gina out for fear that she would have to replenish her salt water, but now there was no need to worry about it anymore. Why are you able to breathe in air all of a sudden? Elizabeth asked Gina suspiciously. She had once seen an incomplete record on mermaids carved on stone in the Frost Dragon tribe's forbidden place. There was a paragraph that said that the merfolk were unable to breathe in air, and could only live in the bottom of the ocean, so they were rarely seen. Since Gina was part of the merfolk, her appearance in Mamie restaurant itself was already very abnormal, and being able to breathe in air all of a sudden made her even more puzzled. Egg, also chicken, 8, Gina said as she motioned. In the end, she pointed at Mag and smiled blissfully. Everyone looked at Mag with a strange expression. Did Uncle Mag do something weird to big sister Gina? Anna asked curiously. Who can withstand that? In order to prevent this daft mermaid from making things worse, Mag quickly explained, Gina should be talking about the new dish I'm intending to launch tonight, the beggar's chicken. Last night, I was making it, and she happened to be downstairs, so I got her to help me try it. Unexpectedly, she managed to breathe in air after eating the beggar's chicken. I see. Boss, you're going to launch a new dish again? That's great. Yabimiya's eyes lit up, and she looked pretty excited. Everyone's eyes lit up as well. When Mag launched a new dish, they would be able to try new delicious food. Only, what chicken was that beggar's chicken? Gina actually could breathe on land after eating it. That was way too incredible. Beggar's chicken is a form of roasted chicken. If everything goes according to plan, there will be 2 orcs coming to challenge me this afternoon. You will find out when the time comes, Mag said with a smile to the curious group. I believe that it will definitely be a new delicacy. Yabimiya said confidently. Right, Gina, since you can already breathe in air, do you want to come over to the ice cream shop with us to play for a while? Mia motioned to Gina. After the past 2 days, everyone could already carry a simple conversation with her with the help of hand gestures. Go out. Gina's eyes lit up. Although she saw customers of various species today, she still only stood by the doors and windows to look out at the world from far away, and did not leave the restaurant for fear of hypoxia. Can I? She was not anxious to reply Yabimiya. Instead, she looked at Mag. Go ahead, it's good to walk around too. Mag nodded with a smile. He had been so busy making beggar's chicken for the past 2 days that he had no time for Gina, so he forgot to bring her around. Mr. Mag, do you want to go along with us? Gina motioned again. Then I will go too, Mag said with a nod after thinking for a while. The intense concentration on making beggar's chicken for the past 2 days had put a toll on him. It was good to walk around and relax for a while too. Other than Ferris, who decided to stay to continue practicing her culinary skills, the rest left. Before he left, Mag specially gave Gina an extra warm large woolen coat. The heavy snow from a few days ago had almost completely melted, leaving only a layer of frost on roofs, making it cold and moist. However, the sun was out today, and it made one feel warm, expelling much of the cold. Gina looked around curiously. There were various stalls along the street and squares filled with different types of plants. Everything looked new and interesting to her. Everywhere was bustling with life, a scene that could not be found in Lantist. Everyone wore a smile on their face, as though they all had something happen to them. Is that white thing snow? Gina said with surprise when she noticed the white snow accumulated on roofs. Her mother told her about snow once. That was something that could only be seen on land. It was as soft as a feather, and it was beautiful when it fluttered down from the sky. That's snow. It's almost melted, but the winter cold came very early this year, so there would definitely be a few more heavy snows, Yabimiya said with a smile. It's going to snow again. Gina did not understand completely, but she could understand the second half of the sentence, so her smile became even brighter. If she could see snow, she would be the only merfolk who had seen snow in Lantist. That would be utterly blissful. When it snows again, we can build a snowman together and have a snow fight. It's super fun. Gina, you live at the bottom of the sea, so you haven't seen snow, right? Let me tell you, the ladies started going on and on along the way, attracting many gazes because of their laughter. Yabimiya, Elizabeth, Babla, Shirley, and Gina each had their distinct beauty, so any one of them would attract gazes when they walked on the road. Now that they were all together, they naturally took the limelight, attracting the gazes of people along the entire street. Everything would be magnified under the limelight. Not to mention the eyesore of a man. Mag, who was in the middle of a group of pretty ladies, was just like a wooden club in the middle of a bouquet of delicate and vibrant fresh flowers, making one feel uncomfortable no matter how they looked at it, especially in the eyes of men. The sweet type, the ice beauty, the Lolita, the voluptuous, the pure style. Oh my god! Is he collecting girls? F***ck. Who can withstand that? The winner in life that makes one envious. The men all looked at Mag with envy and jealousy. Envious, a young lady asked the man beside her who had his eyes glued to them. Envious. The man nodded subconsciously. Slap. A slap resounded. Still envious? No. Not envious anymore, slap. Slap. How dare you lie to me? Then, envious. Slap. 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 You still dare to be envious? Not envious anymore. Not envious anymore. My wife is the most beautiful one, a certain man covered his face, wanting to cry. Women were scary indeed. Wasn't she a cute and gentle little kitten before they got married? Mag's expression did not change despite feeling the jealousy and anger of the entire street. He had been through all kinds of situations. In the past, he would always have a beautiful female partner with him whenever he went out. He loved this feeling of being hated when they could not do anything to him. It feels really good. The new delicious cuisine ranking is coming out today. Would the Mamie restaurant be on the list? Anna asked curiously when they walked past the Food Association's ranking board. Definitely. The food boss makes is so delicious. It would be strange if we didn't make it onto the list, Yabimiya said confidently. There are 6 lists here. I wonder how many of them we can get onto. Shirley was also curious. As the ladies discussed, Mag continued smiling without saying a word. His goal was not how many lists they made it onto, but to dominate the rankings. After sitting in the ice cream shop for a while, Mag met Curtis and Kyle. Kyle had already recovered greatly after having red braised pork for several days straight. His pale complexion started turning green, making him look more like an orc. He also seemed to be more energetic. Other than getting tired easily, there was not much difference between him and normal children. The father and son expressed their sincere gratitude towards Mag, and the child's improvement also made Mag feel glad. At the same time, he felt a renewed sense of responsibility towards his career. Although he was just a chef, at certain times, he might become a doctor. It was a very extraordinary change in identity, and it was all because of a dish. After sitting for a while more in the ice cream shop, Mag brought Gina around Aden Square, and when they passed by the delicious cuisine ranking board, it happened to be the countdown to the release of the results. Mag was a little surprised. When he saw the countdown at 60 seconds on the screen, he could not help but pause. What a coincidence, let's take a look then. Chapter 1033 Mamie Restaurant is incredible. The innovative ranking system and anonymous judging made all the foodies curious. Every customer would have their number one dish in their heart, so it would be inevitable that they would be curious about who would claim the top spot in the various categories, which dish would it be, and if it was the number one dish in their hearts. Of course, most of the people waiting in the front were the owners of the various restaurants and cafeterias. They nervously watched the timer on the screen countdown. The delicious cuisine rankings would, no doubt, have an immediate effect on the restaurant's customer flow. If they could reach a good spot in these rankings, there would be no worries about business for a subsequent period of time. In my opinion, the top spot for the meat category would definitely go to Dukas Restaurant's roast pig. Could there be anything more delicious than roast pig? An obese middle-aged man said with a grin. As an avid fan of roast pig, Don had already made Dukas Restaurant an indispensable part of his life. Besides, as an experienced chowhound, he knew that Dukas Restaurant always had a secure spot as the first place in the delicious cuisine rankings for the past decade, and its position was never surpassed or challenged by others. Even if there were some changes made to the delicious cuisine rankings, he firmly believed that the roast pig from Dukas restaurant would be undefeatable in the meat category. It's hard to say for the rest, but Sith Restaurant's freshwater seafood soup would definitely be the top for soups. The thick soup made from freshwater seafood, combined with the owner's secret seasonings, has an enchanting taste. I'm highly recommending the stir-fried small river shrimp from Dukas restaurant. The river shrimp stir-fried under high heat is so delicious that even the shell is crispy and tender. It gets more fragrant as you chew when you eat it whole, including the head. Couple it with a flask of good wine, and you can't find another place for comparison. The foodies kept recommending their favorites with a smile while flaunting a little. They were waiting to see their favorite dish appear at the top when the rankings were revealed, and then to receive the waves of admiring gazes from the others. If the judges' mouths are all normal, in my opinion, it is only normal if Mamie Restaurant slays in all the rankings, Harrison said with a chuckle after he and George squeezed their way to the front. Isn't it a little too cruel if it slays everything? George said while scratching his head. Harrison thought for a while, and, with a nod, said, "That's true, it's better to live and let live. Big brother, we're not opening a shop in Aiden Square, why are we looking at this?" Eugene, who was carrying a large backpack, asked Fabian with bewilderment among the crowd. "Although we're not opening a shop here right now, that's our goal." Fabian looked at the ranking board that stood tall with glittering eyes, and continued, "Aiden Square is Chaos City's most bustling place with the most places to eat. We should first get a firm placing in the marketplace, and the next step would be to open our very own restaurant in Aiden Square so that more customers would get to eat our roast chicken. To let more people try our roast chicken." Eugene nodded ponderingly. After a while, he curiously said, "Big brother, do you think that Mag's restaurant that we're going to today would make it to the rankings?" "Perhaps." The owner of that restaurant seemed quite confident, Fabian said after thinking for a while. "I don't believe that fellow would be able to come out with anything delicious. In my opinion, his restaurant would definitely not make it into the rankings," Eugene said with certainty as he shook his head. "What's this shiny thing?" Gina looked at the magical screen curiously as the numbers on the screen changed. When she saw so many people staring at it, and even Mr. Mag paused in his steps, she thought that this had to be something very important. Mag had been taking note of the discussion that was going on in the crowd. Amongst them, there were also Mamie Restaurant's regulars recommending Mamie Restaurant's food confidently, but he did not say a single word all throughout, and only had his eyes fixed on the flickering numbers. He had not felt such nervousness for a very long time ever since awaiting his TOEFL results back then. 10, 9, 8, as the countdown got closer to an end, the crowd surrounding the screen quieted down. Everyone held their breath and stared wide-eyed at the magical screen as they waited for the arrival of the miracle. Delicious Cuisine Rankings Meat Category Rankings, First place, Red Braised Pork Mamie Restaurant. Second place, Peking Duck Mamie Restaurant. Third place, Pepper Steak Mamie Restaurant. Fourth place, Roast Pig Dukas Restaurant. When the results of the first category ranking came out, everyone was speechless when they saw Mamie Restaurant won the first 3 spots. Dukas Restaurant was famed for its roast pig, but it was only in the 4th place after being defeated by 3 dishes from the same restaurant. What was going on? *CK, there must be some dirty play here, right? Where did this Mamie Restaurant come from? How can there be 3 meat dishes that taste better than roast pig? Don was in disbelief. Mamie Restaurant is incredible, Harrison said with a satisfied smile. This ranking caused many regulars of Mamie Restaurant to smile. They felt increasingly proud when they saw the people around them look dumbfounded. Well, the judges are quite professional. Mag's eyes also lit up a little, and he smiled slightly. The ranking for the meat category rankings stayed on the screen for around 10 seconds before it minimized to the bottom right corner of the magical screen. The next ranking to be published was the seafood rankings. Delicious Cuisine Rankings Seafood Rankings, First place, Spicy Grilled Fish Mamie Restaurant. Second place, stir-fried small river shrimp sticker restaurant. Third place. The first place is still Mamie Restaurant. After the results of the seafood rankings were revealed, there was another uproar. Everyone looked at the name of the restaurant on the top of the list and found it an eyesore. Delicious Cuisine Rankings Soup Rankings, first place, Braised Chicken Soup Mamie Restaurant. Delicious Cuisine Rankings Vegetarian Food Rankings, first place, Eggplant with Garlic Sauce Mamie Restaurant. Delicious Cuisine Rankings Snacks Rankings, first place, Savory Tofu Pudding and Sweet Tofu Pudding Mamie Restaurant. Third place, Beef Kebab Mamie Restaurant. Fourth place, Stinky Tofu Mamie Restaurant. Fifth place. Delicious Cuisine Rankings Overall Rankings, first place, Mamie Restaurant. Second place, Dukas Restaurant. Yes, dominated the rankings. It dominated the rankings mercilessly. It did not even leave a single chance for the other restaurants in the categorized rankings. Mamie Restaurant is incredible. Boss Mag is dope. Harrison opened his mouth wide in shock. This is really an all-kill. Trj also nodded with the same shocked look on his face. To them, these rankings were completely believable because they tried all the dishes on the rankings for themselves. It was not unreasonable that Mamie Restaurant dominated the rankings. It really deserved it. However, with a ranking like this published, being the top on every ranking, one would still be shocked even if it was expected. Big brother, what's the name of the restaurant that we're going to challenge today? Eugene jabbed Fabian with his elbow and swallowed. Mamie Restaurant. Fabian also swallowed. He could barely squeeze the words out from his throat. Those two words? Eugene asked as he pointed at the name sitting at the top spot. If there isn't another restaurant with the same name in Aiden Square, I guess that's it, Fabian nodded. He felt a little dazed. What was going on? They were here for the challenge today, but before they even reached the place, they already saw the name of the restaurant that they were going to challenge dominate the Delicious Cuisine rankings. It was placed the top on all 6 rankings. If they were to put the rankings together and look at them, it would be like looking at Mamie Restaurant's menu. This result made many feel very uncomfortable. Other than Eugene and Fabian, there were also many restaurant owners that were looking forward to the results and their customers who had high expectations. Did this Mamie Restaurant sponsor the Delicious Cuisine rankings? Why is it first place on all the rankings? Exactly, are they fooling around? Even if they were bribed, they can't go overboard with it, can they? I was quite expectant initially, but now I just feel that the Delicious Cuisine rankings had been reduced into a money-making tool completely. It's not worth looking at. When the crowd came back to their senses, there were many who started voicing out their anger. They felt as though they had been toyed with. President Robert is a very courageous man indeed. I like him. Mag looked at the words Mamie Restaurant shining brightly on the ranking and smiled radiantly. He did not take those salty comments to heart, because the system had already begun calculating the rewards for completing the mission successfully. That was what he should care about. Congratulations, host! You have completed the mission of dominating all 6 rankings and have once again raised the fame of Mamie Restaurant to become one of the most famous restaurants in Chaos City. Mission reward, a chance at the God of Cookery upgrade wheel had been released. The host can choose to use or keep it. You will be able to redeem a specific recipe after you have accumulated 3 chances. The voice of the system sounded as fireworks exploded. I'll keep it first and decide when I get back, Mag said casually in a good mood. He pulled Gina out of the crowd and walked toward the restaurant. As a pragmatist, since he had completed the mission of dominating the rankings successfully, there was no need to go on listening to those indignant voices. What was important was to return to prepare the ingredients for their afternoon opening hours. Of course, if he had the time, Mag would definitely stay on for a while longer to listen to them. After all, that scenario would make anyone happy. The release of the new Delicious Cuisine rankings had already garnered a lot of attention, so the terrifying feat of being able to dominate the 6 rankings very quickly caused quite a commotion in Chaos City. The rankings were initially just a grand occasion amongst the Chowhounds, but because of the over-the-top dominance of the rankings, this matter had successfully become entertainment for all. In an instant, there was an uproar with regards to theories on how Mamie Restaurant dominated the delicious cuisine rankings, as though someone really saw the owner of Mamie Restaurant carrying a suitcase of money and stuffing it to the president of the Food Association. This made the onlookers have a negative perception of Mamie Restaurant. In response to that, the people who had been to Mamie Restaurant were naturally indignant. They argued back and managed not to let the comments lean to one side. On top of that, the news of Mamie Restaurant's owner having once been crowned the best chef of the banquet by the king of the Roth Empire, and that he had also won the chef of Dukas Restaurant in a duel spread like wildfire. The direction of discussions started taking a turn. In the Food Association building, the employees all looked nervous, rushing around everywhere they went, and even had to be aware of the weird things that people threw in. The vice president rushed into the president's office anxiously. Facing Robert, who was sipping his tea leisurely, he said, "President, after the rankings were published, this is already the 10th rotten egg that was thrown into the association building. Now, word that we have accepted Mamie Restaurant's bribe is spreading around, saying that our ranking was all to make money and that there was no credibility. What should we do? Don't be anxious. Isn't this situation within our expectations?" Robert said with a smile. He picked up the teapot, poured some tea into it, and passed it to the vice president. The vice president received the teacup and finished the tea in one gulp before sighing heavily and saying, "How would I know that this would cause such a huge commotion? Almost the entire Chaos City is spreading the news that we have received bribes, but when did we even see the bribes? There was not even a copper coin. If this continues spreading, I reckon the city lord would straighten us up again. Don't worry. The ones who judged for the rankings are all famous critics. All we did was organize the results into a ranking. If these rankings aren't even credible, then there is no need for the Food Association to exist anymore. It would be better for us to close down." Robert put his teacup down. He stood up and walked to the window to look out at the restaurant owners inciting the crowd to create trouble outside. He let out a mocking smile, and said, "These fellows are already used to buying their ranks, so they think that other people would do the same. They just don't know how to put their time and effort into coming out with new dishes and improving their recipes instead. Let them be. One day, people will see for themselves whether the ranking is credible or not. What we need to do is to stand by our values and never give in. All right, I will tell them to be more careful." The vice president looked at Robert with an even more resolute gaze. He put his teacup down and turned to walk out quickly. "There are so many customers. Are they all lining up to beat the boss up?" Eugene was a little shocked when he saw the long line outside Mamie Restaurant. Chapter 1035 ISNT This cheating. It was also the first time Fabian saw such a scene, so he was uncertain. "Big brother, do you think that ranking is real? Is this restaurant really so impressive to be first in everything in the world?" Eugene asked softly. "I don't know that, either, but it definitely wouldn't dare to do this if it wasn't capable." Fabian shook his head with a serious expression. This time, they put their family roast chicken recipe passed down through the generations and their dignity as chefs on the line to challenge Mag. If they lost, they would be at a loss for what to do since they had just gained a foothold in Chaos City. "Don't worry, we might not be able to defeat him in making other dishes, but if it's roast chicken, we definitely have nothing to be afraid of. All these years, we have put in our all in doing only one thing, so no one can do it better than us," Fabian said with a smile as he patted Eugene's shoulder. Eugene gained some confidence. Nodding, he said, "Yes. We definitely won't lose to him. We are going to challenge him right now. Let's look for him after he's done for the day. There are so many customers lining up right now, so he will definitely be busy. We should still have the basic courtesy," Fabian said with a smile as he held Eugene, who was walking towards the entrance of Mamie restaurant, back. All right. Eugene nodded. The people lining up in front of Mamie restaurant today were more than twice the usual number, making the entrance of Mamie restaurant look very lively. Most of them came because of the rankings. Among them were those who mistrusted the delicious cuisine rankings chowhounds who came specially with ill intentions to tarnish the reputation of the restaurant. The regulars of Mamie restaurant would naturally feel proud now that the restaurant had dominated the rankings, so they were all discussing this excitedly. Meanwhile, those who had ill intentions and came to stir up trouble would definitely not give up such a chance where there were so many people. They started to say things like Mamie restaurant bought the ranks and other sarcastic comments in an attempt to incite anger in the people. At this time, the sweet and savory factions who would usually argue about which was better stood together on the same side, and used their well-trained rhetoric skills to give those who came looking for trouble a lash, displaying a scarily strong teamwork. After that, Mag put the enlarged menu at the entrance of the restaurant again. Just a snack cost 200 to 300 copper coins, and the price of a serving of grilled fish cost a whopping 2,500 copper coins. All of a sudden, the customers who came to watch the show all fled. This owner is so vicious. Just a snack would cost enough for 5 to 6 of our roast chickens. Isn't he plainly trying to cheat the customers' money? Eugene criticized when he saw the menu. You can't really say that. Look, those customers are still here after seeing the menu, and aren't even shocked. They should be the regulars of this restaurant. This owner has to be pretty impressive in order to attract so many regulars, Fabian said as he looked at the line that shortened by a third. There might be some picky customers and some who came with ill intentions today. Let's just do the same as usual. There's no need to cater to them specially. If something unhappy happens, settle it quickly and don't let people use it against you or the restaurant, Mag said with a smile to the rest who had just finished their lunch. Father, it's all right. If anyone dares not to pay, I will beat them to death. Amy said as she clenched her little fist. You're a lady, you should speak in a more refined manner. Mag stroked Amy's head with a smile. Then how should I say it? Amy was puzzled. Send them to heaven, Mag replied with a smile. All right. Amy nodded. Although she had no idea what sending them to heaven had anything to do with beating them to death, since her father said so, she would say that for a change. I hate deception the most. I can't believe that even the delicious cuisine rankings would forge their results. Even my favorite roast pig ended up in the 4th place. This Mamie restaurant is just rubbish. How can red braised pork get the 1st place? What a joke! Don, who was standing in the line, stared at the signboard angrily. He did not argue with the others, and kept mum as he boiled with anger. He would order a red braised pork later when he went in and try it for himself so he would have a reason to support his argument. He had to take revenge for the roast pig that he believed in for a decade. No matter what others said, he would not believe that there could be a meat dish that tasted better than roast pig in this world. There were several customers who came with similar motives. Usually, no one would give their all to argue with another person because of a ranking, but there were many who still could not accept it, and insisted on coming personally to judge for themselves. Welcome. Please come in. Just then, the doors of the restaurant opened up from the inside. The restaurant had officially started its operation. Give me a red braised pork, Don told Yabimiya straight away without even flipping through the menu on the table. All right, please wait for a while. Yabimiya nodded. She could not help but take another glance at this angry customer, and wondered how many of these indignant customers would be here today. Give me a braised chicken soup, Bolton also ordered straight away after sitting down. He could not accept the fact that the freshwater seafood soup from Sith restaurant would be ranked below the braised chicken soup, so he also came to check if this chicken soup was worthy of the top place in the soup rankings. I'm sorry, sir, we don't have braised chicken soup here, only braised chicken and rice, Mia said while shaking her head. No chicken soup? Then why would the first place of the soup rankings be the braised chicken soup from your restaurant? Isn't this cheating? Bolton said with a frown. He was even more certain that there was a problem with the rankings now. Bro, the braised chicken soup here is superb. It really deserves to be the top of the soup rankings. It's just that Boss Mag doesn't sell it a la carte, Harrison, who was sitting opposite him, said with a smile. Bolton flipped open the menu in front of him to take a look. Indeed, there was only braised chicken and rice on it, and not braised chicken soup. He also realized that he was a little too agitated just now. He closed the menu and told Yabimiya, "Then give me the braised chicken and rice." "Sure, please wait for a moment." Mia nodded and left. "Your red braised pork." Mia very quickly served the red braised pork to Don. "This aroma! Why is it so enticing?" Don's eyes lit up immediately. His Adam apple moved, and he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. 10 years ago, when Dukas restaurant introduced the roast pig for the first time, he was one of the lucky people to try it first. The delicious roast pig seemed to have opened the doors to a new world for him. That stunning feeling always made him want to go back to recap it again for the past 10 years. Although he already couldn't find that stunning feeling now, and it had become a habit, the roast pig still ranked first among all the delicacies in his heart. However, the impactful aroma from the red braised pork was shaking his resolve now. The smell of the meat was inspired to the extreme by the spices, and it had stunned him, just like the first time he met the roast pig. No. The roast pig should be the best. Don shook his head and chased that thought out of his mind. But, his Adam apple couldn't help but move when he looked at the red braised pork in the black terracotta bowl. "I will taste this red braised pork, which is the number 1 on the meat category rankings, and see if it deserves the accolade or its ranking was bought with money," Don thought as he picked up a piece of the red braised pork and put it in his mouth. The red braised pork already melted away in his mouth with a gentle bite. The fat meat melted away almost instantly. The soft and tender skin was not hard to chew like it was normally, yet it gave the red braised pork a chewy bite, and brought about a stronger sense of bliss. The sweet and tender, fatty but not greasy red braised pork was at the extreme end of tasty. It made Don forget why he was there. The tip of his tongue was shaking. That was his taste buds doing a cheer. He wondered what magic the chef applied to this tiny piece of pork that made it become so scrumptious. Just a single bite, and he was absorbed into the vortex with no way of getting out. In Don's heart, a roast pig was running toward him on its short legs when a flaming fiery pig slammed it away, and all there was left in his heart was that running fiery pig. Tasty! Extremely tasty! Unbelievably tasty! Don was generous with his flattery in his heart. What was a roast pig? He didn't care anymore. All there was left in his eyes was the bowl of red braised pork in front of him. When compared to the extremely well-executed red braised pork in taste, heat, and condiments, the roast pig, which was originally perfect in his heart, seemed to be rough now. The taste of pork meat wasn't totally covered, the greasy feel of the inner fatty meat wasn't marinated, and the dryness of the lean meat had a bad texture. All these were little flaws that could be ignored by Don if there wasn't any comparison, but after tasting this delicious red braised pork, these flaws were magnified indefinitely to the extent that even he, who was a true fan, couldn't ignore. They were both pork and therefore the difference between the two of them was even more direct. The disparity in the culinary skills of both chefs was especially obvious with the red braised pork and roast pig. Don was having complex feelings now. His favorite for 10 years was simply shattered by the red braised pork like this. All the words that he had sworn earlier. He couldn't voice them out anymore. If this extremely delicious red braised pork hadn't been ranked first in the meat category rankings, then this delicious cuisine rankings would then truly have been unfair. Even though his feelings were complex, Don's mouth was very simple. One mouthful of rice with one mouthful of red braised pork, he enjoyed eating it tremendously. As a carnivore, he hadn't found a taste that astonished him for a long time, but today he had found this feeling again. Red braised pork, first in the meat category rankings, truly deserving. Don couldn't help praising it after putting down his chopsticks when he finished a helping of red braised pork. This is a so-called soup? It's a blasphemy to soups. Bolton felt ridiculous when he stared at the braised chicken. Even though he had to admit that the aroma that greeted him was indeed very enticing, it was too much that this soup, which didn't even have a piece of meat in it, could get the first in the soup rankings. Don't jump to conclusions, taste the soup first. Be mindful of your tongue, don't bite it, Harrison said happily as he bit into a Ruggiamo in his hands. He had long noticed that this big bro sitting across him was here to make trouble, but he was very restrained and calm about it, hence, he made him curious about what was going to happen next. If this could be considered as soup, it would be akin to rubbing the intelligence of his customers on the ground. Bolton pursed his lips as he scooped up a spoonful of the golden red chicken soup. Before the spoon even got close, the aroma of the rich chicken soup that was mixed with a mysterious fragrance already washed all over him. Although he didn't want to admit it, this aroma was very special and enticing. Gulp. Bolton's Adam apple moved uncontrollably, and the sound of him swallowing his saliva could be heard clearly. How is the scent of this chicken soup so rich? There is also a hint of unique fragrance within it that made the aroma of the chicken soup even more refreshing. Bolton blushed as a sense of increased edibility appeared in his heart. The freshwater seafood soup at Sith restaurant was renowned for its freshness. That freshwater seafood soup only used wild seafood caught freshly from the river one that day. The chef's secret recipe spices were added to emphasize the freshness to the very extreme. It was not an exaggeration when it was said to be the best in Chaos City. However, the fragrance of this chicken soup had already surpassed the freshwater seafood soup to Bolton. And it surpassed it by more than one level. Maybe it's only the aroma. Taste is what matters the most. It's just normal chicken and not even a specially made soup, how can it compare with the freshwater seafood soup? Bolton tried very hard to convince himself in his heart before he put the chicken soup in his mouth. Silence. Silence. It's delish. Bolton praised out loud. The freshness of the chicken soup was elevated to the extreme by that mysterious fragrance. The taste buds on his tongue went crazy the moment he put it in his mouth. They were engulfed by the chicken soup without any means to extricate themselves. He felt that all the pores on his body opened up as he swallowed. The warm feel of it nourished his whole body, and made him feel very comfortable. If the freshness of the freshwater seafood soup came from the freshly caught seafood in the river, the freshness of this chicken soup was the collision of fresh chicken and some mysterious ingredient. The fresh taste that was the result of the combination of these ingredients astonished him. Although the freshwater seafood soup was good, it was miles behind this chicken soup. Braised chicken soup, first in the soup rankings, truly deserving too. One as such, it's not really seafood, but it looks like a creative license case on the author's part, so we will stick to it. Besides, some definitions of seafood include sweet water creatures. Delicious food was being redefined. If such scrumptious food hadn't taken the first place, this delicious cuisine rankings would really have sucked. Why is nobody kicking up a fuss? Weren't they all screaming for blood earlier? Why did their demeanor all change after they came out? Maybe the boss threatened them. Eugene murmured in confusion. Fabian shook his head with a sigh, and said, based on their expressions, they don't look like they were threatened, but truly satisfied. This boss is really a formidable person. Mag turned over the wooden plaque on the door, and smilingly said to the 20-odd customers lining at the entrance, I'm sorry, dear customers. The restaurant's opening hours are over. Please come earlier for your next visit. Boss, we came after looking at the delicious cuisine rankings, and it's finally our turn. If you chase us off like this, won't it be bad for your reputation as number one? A werewolf said unhappily. That's right. It's still early now and there are 20-odd people here who came to support you. How could there be a boss who chases his customers out? Your restaurant took the first spot for all the categories, so we got to try it out today. We are not leaving if we don't gotta taste it. The other customer chimed in too. They sounded rather agitated and out to cause trouble. The restaurant's opening hours are fixed and I am always punctual. This is the Mamie restaurant's reputation. No overtime is my principle. And with regard to the delicious cuisine rankings, that was all judged by our skills. Your support is too overwhelming, I think we are not able to accept it. So, I would rather do without it, you can keep it for yourself. Customers who really want to try the food in Mamie restaurant, please come to join the line earlier in the future. Of course, if you think the scenery here is nice and don't intend to leave, it's up to you too. Mag wasn't a pushover, and he responded calmly. He had recognized a few restaurant owners amongst the crowd. They would love to watch a good show. Everyone was lost for words after hearing Mag's rebuttal. Usually, when they went to a restaurant for a meal, the service staff and boss would be groveling at their feet full of smiles. Naturally, they were unhappy when they had to deal with such a straightforward person. However, even though Mag's words were harsh, they were impenetrable. There weren't any parts they could rebut. They wanted to say something to vent their anger, but they couldn't find anything to say. This boss is quite a straightforward person. His words made me feel gratified too, Eugene said smilingly. He couldn't stand those customers who thought they could make any demands just because they were going to pay. Normally, his brother would stop him from retaliating, so Mag's words had really touched his heartstrings. Hence, Mag began to look more pleasing to him. Mag felt gratified looking at those people's twisted expressions. He had already tried his best to control the soul of his vile tongue, but these people's combat abilities were so low that he had lost all interest. Smiling, he turned around and said to the Orc brothers at the side, "Thank you for waiting so long. Let's have the duel at the restaurant's entrance. Please start your preparations, and I'll go and do mine too." "All right." Fabian nodded. He stepped forward with Eugene and set down 2 huge pieces of luggage. They started to take out things from within. Duel. The customers, who were prepared to leave, couldn't help but halt when they saw this scene. It seemed like the boss and this pair of Orc brothers were going to have a culinary duel. It was regretful that they couldn't get into the restaurant to try out the food, but it would be very interesting if they could watch this boss being defeated. Today, Mamie restaurant had crushed all the other restaurants in Chaos City, taking the first spot for every single category of the rankings. For some categories, it even took the top few spots along with the first. This had angered many chefs. This was equivalent to announcing that Mag had surpassed all the chefs in Chaos City for different foods. Predictably, there would definitely be a lot more chefs coming to challenge Mag, trying to rectify the rankings. However, they didn't anticipate that the first challenge would come so soon. Mag, who was about to enter the restaurant, halted, and asked Fabian, "Since it is a duel, have you decided on the method to determine the showdown?" This pair of Orc brothers had long arrived, but they didn't choose the time to challenge him when he had the greatest number of customers. Instead, they chose to wait outside quietly. This gave Mag a good impression of them. This duel was forced upon by the system. On Norland continent, where culinary skills were generally rather low, it was already rather impressive that they could use such an innovative method to roast chicken. Thus, Mag wasn't hostile toward them. I have never dueled before. You set the rules." Fabian scratched his head and smiled humbly. Mag raised his eyebrows. They were so simple. They handed him this advantage on a silver platter. He thought for a moment before he smilingly said to the customers watching the showdown, "Since this is a culinary duel, naturally, it's the customer's opinion that matters the most. We are going to have a roast chicken duel. Would any one of you like to be a judge for this showdown?" "Hey!" Fabian, Eugene, and all those customers were stunned, and looked at Mag with a weird expression. This chap had just rebutted them in the most merciless way, and now he was handing the rights to judge the outcome of the duel to them. Was he stupid? Or was he simply really very stupid? Big brother, is there something wrong with his brain? Eugene whispered. Fabian shook his head. He also couldn't understand what Mag was thinking. All I have is time. Therefore, let me see if the roast chicken made by the restaurant's boss, who held the top spot on the delicious cuisine rankings, can live up to his number one's reputation. The werewolf who spoke earlier stepped out. Me. Another 2 customers stepped out. Boss Mag, did we miss the lunch service? Right at this moment, a deep voice sounded from the back of the crowd. 2 strapping orcs walked over, holding 2 huge clubs. They were the brothers, Haga and Habeng, who were out of town for a long time. Yes. The lunch's opening hours are over, Mag said smilingly. This pair of orc brothers were the restaurant's regulars when it first started. They returned to their tribble for a 2-month period a while ago. Looking at the baggage they were carrying, they had come here straight away after they arrived in Chaos City. Oh, what a pity. We should have run faster on our way here. Annoyed, Habeng scratched his bald head. Amy. Haga looked inside the restaurant, still having that humble smile. Amy has gone to school, Mag said with a smile. He knew Haga doted on Amy and had always brought her gifts when he returned from his tribe. Then we will return tonight, Haga said as he scratched his head with a smile. Lord Haga, Lord Habeng. Fabian and Eugene, who were standing at a side, addressed them softly. Chapter 1038. Does this boss really know how to roast chicken? After talking in the gibberish-sounding orc language, both parties finally found out what was going on. Fabian and Eugene had come from Haga's tribe, and they were acquaintances too. They just didn't expect to meet each other here. You guys are challenging Boss Mag? That's courageous. Habeng's mouth was agape as he didn't have anything else to say to praise these 2 brothers. Even though their roast chicken was the best in their tribe, weren't they asking for it if they were competing with Boss Mag? Mag was also slightly surprised at the situation. Lord Habeng, he said our roast chicken wasn't as good as his. We are not convinced, so we decided to have a roast chicken duel with him. Eugene nodded, his eyes full of competitive spirit. Boss Mag, these 2 come from our tribe, and they are not very worldly. But, since they want to challenge you, you don't have to hold back, either. Did you say you guys are short of 2 more judges? We have not eaten our lunch yet, should we be your judges, then? We can't say flowery words, but we know what good food is, Habeng said to Mag. All right, let's do this. Mag nodded. Although their relationships were a little complicated, Habeng's words sounded quite reasonable. The stage was already set, so they had to go on with it. Mag went in. Soon, Mia and the gang helped him carry out a small oven and utensils. They, too, set up everything at the restaurant's entrance. Once everything was set, Mag looked at Fabian and Eugene, who were equally ready, and said, "Let's begin." "All right." Eugene nodded and took out a live chicken from the burlap sack. He twisted its neck, and that chicken stopped moving immediately. He began to let out blood and disemboweled it. After this simple maneuver, he stuffed a packet of spices into the chicken's stomach. He coated it directly with a layer of mud without depluming it, and then wrapped it in a thick layer of clay. Finally, he put it into the simple oven and began to bake it. The entire process was simple and rough, but due to the fluid actions, the surrounding crowd was rather impressed. By contrast, Mag proceeded on at his own leisure pace. The 3 yellow chicken was just deplumed and washed. It was rubbed with a layer of spices and condiments thoroughly. Its stomach was stuffed with plenty of spices before a tender green lotus leaf was used to wrap it up, and secured with a cotton string. Then, a layer of yellow mud was used to coat all over the lotus leaf. This yellow mud seemed to be cleaner and more delicate than the yellow mud used by the Orc brothers. It was applied evenly on the exterior of the lotus leaf, and it looked just like an oval giant egg with a smooth surface. Their methods look similar, but Mamie Restaurant's boss did it in a way that's more comfortable to look at. I wouldn't dare to eat a chicken that wasn't deplumed. You're right. It's wrapped with mud directly. It looked a little scary. Is that mud really clean? The yellow mud that the restaurant's boss used looked very sophisticated. My dad makes porcelain bowls for a living, but the mud he used isn't even as good as this. The surrounding crowd was discussing quietly. Although their methods looked similar, judging by their processes, the crowd slowly began to form their own expectations. Big brother, why did he remove the chicken's feathers? And even wrap the chicken with a leaf? A roast chicken made in that manner would have no soul, Eugene whispered to Fabian. But you heard what the customers said. They seemed to prefer the roast chicken made in that manner. Fabian shook his head thoughtfully. It shouldn't be. Eugene heard the customers' quiet discussion too, and he felt incredulous. The staff of Mamie Restaurant were all watching at the side and cheering Mag on softly. Egg. Gina stared at the chicken, which was placed into the oven by Mag, with shiny eyes. That was the hope of Lantist. So, it wasn't a natural egg, but one made by Mr. Mag. A roast chicken that is wrapped up in yellow mud is so different from the roast duck. Boss always manages to outdo himself every single time. He is so formidable. Mia gazed at Mag with admiration. Delicious. Gina did a thumbs up, giving her approval as the only person who had tasted the beggar's chicken there. Both parties waited quietly for the roast chicken to be done after Mag placed his chicken into the oven too. The bustle attracted the attention of many passers-by. Mamie Restaurant had just made a hit on the delicious cuisine rankings, so many restaurant owners rushed over to watch after hearing that Mag was having a duel. They wanted to see for themselves if this Mamie Restaurant's owner indeed had the capability to take all the top spots. The beggar's chicken was still baking in the oven, but the crowd was getting larger and larger. In order to increase their efficiency at roasting chicken, the Fabian brothers had just changed to a magic oven too. Although it became more difficult to control the heat, the efficiency was indeed much higher. A roast chicken could be done if they blasted the heat to the highest level. All right, time to take it out of the oven. Fabian calculated the timing and switched off the heat of the oven. He opened the oven door, and a wave of heat washed over him. Eugene took an iron spike, poked it into the oven, and pulled a roast chicken out. The aroma of the roast chicken rushed out from the area that was poked, which made everyone's eyes light up. Those at the very front of the crowd were the customers who hadn't eaten their lunch. All their stomachs began to growl after the aroma came over them. They gazed at the baked dark brown mud loaf hungrily. That is a rather special method to roast a chicken. I wonder which restaurant these two chefs came from? I will go and try it out when I get the time. Many customers were amazed too, and were also discussing making time to go and try it out. Do I need to wait for you? Fabian asked Mag. You don't need to. Roast chicken tastes the best when it just comes out of the oven. Mine needs a while longer. Mag shook his head. He didn't want to take advantage of him. A roast chicken that just came out of the oven and a roast chicken that had turned cold were two entirely different foods. All right. Fabian nodded as he took a sharp piece of wood and poked into the part Eugene had just poked open with the iron spike. He pulled it out, and a mud casing fell off together with the chicken feathers. The aroma of roast chicken spread out immediately. Eugene passed him a plate, and Fabian placed the roast chicken that was removed from the mud casing on it. The crimson roast chicken was a little dry, and not a single feather was left on the body. There was a rich roast chicken aroma that made everyone stretch out their necks to have a look. It smells so good. I didn't expect a roast chicken could give out such an aroma. I regret not volunteering myself as a judge earlier. On the rankings today, there wasn't a roast chicken from Mamie Restaurant on it, right? Does this boss really know how to roast chicken? The customers were discussing softly as they salivated at the roast chicken in front of Fabian. Fabian took out a knife and made a few cuts on the roast chicken. He put pieces of the chicken on different plates and placed them in front of the 5 judges, who had already taken their seats. "Please taste it." A confident smile appeared on Fabian's face. Roasting chicken was something that he had been doing since he was little. Habang took the drumstick from his plate and took a huge bite. He nodded as he chewed, and praised, "The brothers' roast chicken seemed to have improved. After you two moved to Chaos City, people in our tribe are always saying you guys made the best roast chicken in the tribe, and they are missing it." Haga bit into the chicken and gave them a thumbs up too. He praised them in their orc language. The werewolf also put a piece of chicken in his mouth and chewed. He even swallowed the bones before he praised, "Scrumptious." Among the judges were a male elf and a female human. Both of them stared at the roast chicken in front of them with hesitation. As an elf, he was much fussier about the cleanliness of his food than other species. The Orc brothers' cooking method had shocked him a little. The chicken wasn't even cleaned after it was slaughtered. It was simply wrapped up in dirty mud water together with the feathers intact, and placed in the oven to bake directly. Even though the feathers were removed by the yellow mud after the baking was done, he still couldn't make himself tuck into the roast chicken in front of him. That elf hesitated for a long time before he raised his chopsticks to place a piece of chicken meat without the skin in his mouth. The heat from the spices assaulted his mouth and made him a little uncomfortable. Although the taste of the chicken that followed after diluted the spiciness, he still didn't like the spicy texture. Furthermore, the texture of the chicken was too dry for him. He chewed for quite a while before he could make himself swallow it. He put down his chopsticks just after one bite. The taste and the cooking process both stopped him from taking a second bite. The woman also put a piece of chicken into her mouth and chewed delicately with furrowed brows. But soon, she relaxed her brows and began to smile. She continued to eat happily. Although the way the Orc brothers handled their ingredients had given her a shock, this roast chicken was surprisingly good as she liked chewy food. This chicken got better as one continued to chew it. Apart from that male elf, the other 4 judges had a satisfied expression. On the other hand, Mag's roast chicken was still in the oven. Is there something wrong with this boss's brain? Out of the 5 judges, 3 are customers that he has just insulted, and 2 came from the same tribe with the Orcs. If he can win with these kinds of judges, I will streak straight away. But, now there are 4 judges who are satisfied with the Orc brothers' roast chicken, and he still isn't ready. There seems to be no suspense about the outcome. Tisk, tisk. This is the restaurant that dominated all 6 rankings of the delicious cuisine rankings. It will be interesting if it loses to a street food stall. The surrounding crowd was having a discussion. This ordinary culinary duel gained a lot of curious onlookers because Mamie restaurant had taken the limelight today. Boss should be able to win, right? Yabimiya clenched her fists worriedly. If he could be defeated like this, he wouldn't be him. Elizabeth gazed upon Mag's back in a relaxed manner, not affected by the onlookers' comments at all. Yes. Uncle Mag has been making this roast chicken for the past few days. Although I haven't tried it, it should be super delicious. Anna nodded too. The Orc brothers passed some leftover roast chicken to the onlookers to try out, and successfully gained another round of praises. There were people asking where the Orc brothers' stall was, and said they would go and buy from them. Ding! Right at this moment, Mag's oven gave out a loud tinkle. Mag turned off the fire and opened the cover. Then, he used an iron spade to retrieve the beggar's chicken from the oven. It's done. Everyone looked toward Mag. The mud casing that was engulfing the roast chicken became golden after the baking process, and it looked just like a giant golden egg. The surface was even smoother than a normal chicken's egg, and there was a sheen on it that made people's eyes light up. Compared to the big lump of mud that the Orc brothers' roast chicken came out in, the mud casing in front of Mag resembled an intricate piece of art. Nobody would suspect anything even if told that it was an egg. How did he bake the mud that it comes out looking so nice? The appearance alone won against our mud-covered chicken by leaps and bounds, Fabian thought with tightly furrowed brows. It's not important that mud casing is pretty. We are eating roast chicken, and not the mud casing. That mud casing is already so heated that it becomes as hard as a brick. I guess the roast chicken inside most likely has already become a piece of burnt charcoal. This is beggar's chicken, Mag announced loudly before he took a small wooden hammer, and gently knocked on the center of the mud casing. Crack! A crisp crack sounded, and cracks spread out from the point of contact. The mud shell opened up to the sides like a flower, and revealed the golden brown beggar's chicken. The rich aroma was released instantly like an exploding bomb as the eggshell opened up. Whoa! The onlookers were suddenly in an uproar. The rich roast chicken aroma washed over them unexpectedly. No one had expected that this aroma would be so impactful and enticing. The golden brown roast chicken in the golden mud casing seemed to be glowing at this moment. It attracted everyone's attention. Is this really the aroma of a roast chicken? Why do I sense the scent of summer as if I could see the lotus flower swaying in the middle of a pond in midsummer? This smells too good. My gosh! Did the boss add drugs to the roast chicken? Gulp! Saliva swallowing sounds could be heard with everyone's marveling. They had to suppress their urge to rush forward to take a bite of the chicken in front of Mag. Eugene swallowed his saliva as he glared. This smells too good. Big brother, he's not playing fair. The spices he used are indeed more suitable than ours. They hid behind the chicken's meat perfectly and yet elevated the aroma of the chicken to the peak. Fabian looked at that beggar's chicken, and slowly shifted his gaze onto Mag as he gravely said, "This is an expert." Expert. If the Orc brothers' roast chicken had surprised the people, this roast chicken with its amazing entrance had totally subverted everyone's expectations of the aroma of roast chicken in their heart. It smells fantastic. Although it's different from the roast duck's aroma, it's equally astonishing. Mia said as she swallowed her saliva. Chick, chick, Gina licked her lips. She still couldn't forget that delicious roast chicken after savoring it last night. Furthermore, in her heart, this wasn't simply a roast chicken. It was the holy object that could save Lantist from their curse. The very moment the staff of Mamie Restaurant smelled the aroma, they became very confident. They indeed didn't have to worry about boss's product. Just judging by this aroma alone, I know Fabian and his brother are going to lose. But, it's not shameful to lose to Boss Mag. After all, nobody can defeat him. Habang finished his drumstick in 2 mouthfuls and gazed at the beggar's chicken in front of Mag expectantly. Haga didn't say a word, and simply smiled in acknowledgement. Mag took out his Chinese cleaver, and separated half of the chicken with a few strokes before putting the portions on 5 plates. Then, he placed them in front of the 5 judges. Let me taste it first. The werewolf grabbed the chicken with his hand, and popped it into his mouth. His ruthless face actually became blissful immediately. It was as if he had seen a chubby chick jump into his mouth voluntarily, and gobbled it in one mouthful. Oh! That tender and fresh texture was simply too wonderful. However, this one mouthful was too little. It slid down his throat naughtily just after a few bites. It became a warm current that made his entire body feel so comfortable. He quickly popped the other piece of chicken left on the plate into his mouth and chewed carefully. The tender chicken meat, crispy chicken skin, and the bones which were baked till crispy. All was chewed with care until nothing was left. Let me have a taste too. Habang put a drumstick into his mouth. The chicken meat glided away from the bone and into his mouth. It was such a delicate taste that he couldn't bear to bite too hard. He chewed gently and felt the scrumptious chicken meat dance in between his tongue and teeth before he swallowed. Comparatively, the Fabian brothers' roast chicken was coarse and rustic. Only Boss Mag's roast chicken could be called a delicacy. Boss Mag, you will make me reluctant to return to my tribe if you keep doing this, Habang said to Mag sadly. It's delicious, Boss Mag. Haga's expression also lit up after eating a piece of chicken. He gave Mag a thumbs up. Is it really so nice? The elf, who was already very tempted, lifted up his chopsticks and picked up a piece of meat. Mag's delicate method of processing the chicken meat was different from the orc brother's rough one. Even he, who was fussy with cleanliness, had no complaints. Even the servants at his house couldn't reach this level of care. Apart from the chicken's rich aroma, he was also surprised at the hint of light lotus leaf's fragrance within the aroma. The rich meat aroma could get a little greasy after a while, but the hint of light lotus leaf fragrance dispersed that greasy feel, and made the aroma more refreshing. He opened his mouth and took a bite. The crispy chicken skin fell apart easily, and the tender soft meat melted away in his mouth. The scrumptious taste blossomed on his tongue, and his taste buds went into a revelry. The freshly slaughtered chicken meat had a unique freshness, and the supple meat was bouncy. It was smooth and chewy when he bit down, and it was not dry at all. The chicken meat didn't seem to rest on the tongue long enough before it glided down the throat, and became a warm current that seeped into his organs and relaxed his entire being. Tender and not dry, coupled with an unique taste. This unexpected delicate taste swept him into a scrumptious vortex. He saw a pond full of lotus leaves and a chicken dancing on them. What a relaxing and interesting image! A smile appeared on the elf's lips. It was a blissful smile. A delicacy that made him feel blissful was something he hadn't tasted for a very long time. It should be over 100 years ago that he had one last time. In the Wind Forest, their small team of guards had repelled the orcs' attack, and their leader, together with them, roasted a wild chicken. The charred wild chicken was shared amongst the comrades. Strangely, it gave them the feeling that they were eating a delicacy. When he opened his eyes again, there were tears glistening in the elf's eyes. Meanwhile, the woman next to him was also enjoying her roast chicken now. At this moment, she finally realized that she didn't actually hate soft and mushy food. She simply hated soft and mushy foods that were not delicious. If the food was as delicious as this roast chicken, she would still eat it happily even when it was soft and mushy. Gulp. The onlookers were all swallowing their saliva after watching the judges eat. They wished to rush across and take over their positions. Those people who had the chance to volunteer as judges and missed it were all regretting now. As for the fat orc who boasted about streaking, he had already disappeared from sight. The judges didn't have to say anything, as the victor of this duel was already very obvious. As for those people who came to watch Mamie Restaurant's downfall, their opinions about Mamie Restaurant were totally subverted after watching this exciting duel. Since Mag could make such a delicious roast chicken, Mamie Restaurant getting all the top spots on the rankings might really be truly deserving. Did we lose? Eugene was a little disappointed. We do have plenty of areas that we could improve on. Fabian patted Eugene on his shoulders, but he didn't seem to be too disappointed. Instead, there was a light in his eyes. It's too delish. I am so touched that I am going to cry. How could there be such scrumptious chicken meat in this world? The werewolf closed his eyes to recall the taste. He opened his teary eyes, and said to Mag, "Boss, can I have one more, please? I'm sorry. We will only start selling beggars' chickens officially this evening." Mag shook his head. "Then, half will do too." The werewolf was not giving up as he fixed his eyes on that other half of beggar's chicken that was left in front of Mag. The werewolf's howling attracted everyone's attention to that half piece of beggar's chicken in front of Mag. They wondered if Mag was selling it, and some of them were already prepared to bid on it. "I'm sorry. This is the staff's afternoon tea snack." Mag continued to shake his head. Then, he took the knife, cut up that other half, and put the portions onto a few plates. He indicated to Mia and the gang to come and get their afternoon tea. It must be very blissful to be a staff member at this restaurant. Everyone watched the ladies, who walked away with their plates of beggar's chicken, enviously. "Then, are you still recruiting?" the werewolf asked as he gritted his teeth. Mag stared at that werewolf for a while before shaking his head. "Uncle, you don't seem to be very compatible. Even if he was willing to dress as a female, Mag also wouldn't dare to employ him." This would damage the restaurant's reputation. It wasn't that he looked down on drag queens, but not everyone was as beautiful and natural in drag as Shirley. Their conversation made the surrounding crowd laugh. Everyone was looking at Mag with appreciation. This boss was really interesting. Smiling, Mag said to the judges, "Since you have tasted both parties' chicken, please say whose roast chicken is better in your heart." Everyone moved their gazes to the judges. Although the victor was already very obvious, the final results still needed to be announced by the judges who had tried it. That elf stood up, and apologetically said to Mag, "The roast chicken Mr. Mag made is the tastiest roast chicken I ever had. I apologize for my earlier disrespectful remarks. Based on your excellent culinary skills, you must have taken all top spots on the delicious cuisine rankings with your ability. I will come and line up early tonight so I can taste this delicious beggar's chicken again. We welcome you to visit again." Mag nodded smilingly. Conquering the customers with delicacies gave him the most heightened sense of accomplishment. "You guys have done well too, Fabian and brother. But we have to speak factually, Boss Mag's roast chicken is indeed more delicious." Habang pointed at Mag. Haga gave Fabian and his brother an encouraging look before pointing his finger at Mag. "Although Boss Mag doesn't want to employ me as his staff member, that cannot cover the scrumptiousness of the roast chicken. You are my true love." The werewolf gazed at Mag lovingly. A nauseating chill rose in Mag's heart. He had to suppress his urge to club this werewolf to death. Then, he looked at the last lady. "Mr. Mag, I am a quick learner and hard worker. Do you want to consider me?" That lady wore a professional fake smile on her face and winked at Mag. "I'm sorry, but the restaurant is not recruiting now." Mag smiled helplessly. It was a mystery why all these people wanted to be service staff. That lady covered her heart, and heart-wrenchingly said, "Even though I am sad to be rejected, I can't make a decision that goes against my heart. Hence, I choose Mr. Mag." Fabian stepped forward as he clasped his hands, and said to Mag, "Mr. Mag, regarding this duel, you have won and we lost. If you have a task for us to do, we will complete it. This will be the punishment for our recklessness. We only agreed to have a roast chicken duel, but we didn't say anything about punishment." Mag shook his head with a smile. "Furthermore, my behavior that day wasn't very good, either. If I were you, I also would not take it lying down. I have won marginally for today's duel, so we will consider this incident over and done with." Mag had a good impression of this pair of orc brothers, and he hadn't planned to gain anything from them. After all, this duel was set up by the system, and both parties were innocent. The duel was over and Mamie restaurant was closed, so the crowd slowly dispersed. However, the beggar's chicken that wowed the crowd had already imprinted itself into everybody's mind. Many of them had already planned to come and line up earlier that night so as to try it out. They wondered if it was as amazing as the judges had described. The ladies who were trying out the beggar's chicken were also full of praises for it. No dipping sauce and accompanied dishes were needed. The roast chicken itself was an incomparable delicacy. "You have a straightforward character. I like it. Since this is the case, I, Eugene, will have you as a friend," Eugene said with a laugh. Fabian saw that Mag had a sincere expression, so he didn't insist. After pondering for a while. After some hesitation, gathering up his courage, he asked, "Mr. Mag, could you please give us some pointers for our roast chicken?" Eugene stopped smiling, and stood at the side attentively. They admitted their defeat wholeheartedly for their duel today. They had believed that the roast chicken they made was the best in this world, but after seeing the one that Mag made, they knew their roast chicken was far from being the best. They were just like children who had started to walk compared to Mag. "I wouldn't say that they are pointers, but after tasting your roast chicken, I do have some opinions that you may want to take into consideration." Since the two of them had asked sincerely, Mag didn't want to hide anything. After thinking for a while, he said, "First, since you want to do business in Chaos City, you cannot retain the thinking that you had when you were roasting chicken in your tribe. In order to let more customers accept your roast chicken, making it clean and good looking is a very effective method. Process the chicken in advance, and then wrap a layer of leaves outside of the roast chicken before covering it up with yellow mud. Fabian seemed to be thinking about something. In the bazaar, most of their customers were demons and orcs. So that was the main reason. Hey. You could say it that way. Mag nodded. He glanced at the yellow mud they used before continuing. It will also look nicer if you use a purer and sticky type of yellow mud. It will also be heated more evenly when it is baking in the oven. Fabian and Eugene nodded. Second, apart from cleanliness, the roast chicken's texture is also very important. You guys have a stronger bite than humans and elves, therefore your roast chicken's texture is a little tough and dry, and a lot of the chicken's natural taste is lost. All these are not comfortable to humans and elves, so reducing your baking time appropriately will make the texture better and increase the quality of the roast chicken. Third, you can keep your unique spices, but you may have to reduce the amount that you use slightly. Then, there would be a balance between the chicken's flavor and hot spices, and so they could merge to become a delicious taste. The separation of these two made it difficult to accept the taste. Mag thought for a while and nodded. Just these 3 points. They are my humble opinions. I have learned a lot. Fabian bowed deeply at Mag, his eyes full of gratitude. Mag's words had enlightened him, and let him discover his inadequacies. Furthermore, he also knew how he should start again. Also, Mag had imparted all these precious experiences to him unselfishly. It had made him very touched. Eugene's reaction was a little slower, but he also followed suit and bowed. After straightening himself, he scratched his head as he said, "You are truly the expert at doing a chicken. You're overrating me, overrating." Mag was smiling, but he was thinking no way he would do a chicken. He simply couldn't accept this praise. The Fabian brothers kept their stuff and bade their farewells. They already decided to close the stall for a few days to research on how to make a more scrumptious roast chicken. Master Urian, I love you. Mag was very aware of this point. Furthermore, the two eateries belonged to two different categories. Mamie Restaurant was a high-end restaurant that had already priced out many blue-collar workers. Mag wanted to earn money, and he also used the high-end ingredients provided by the system. He was totally at ease with his menu's pricing. Delicacies made from the best ingredients deserved to be priced that high. However, he didn't mind letting more ordinary people have a chance to try tasty food, so he didn't mind sharing with the Orc brothers. As for how much could they absorb, what kind of roast chicken could they make, it would be all up to them. Mag was running a business too. It was impossible for him to teach them how to roast a chicken step by step. After the ladies finished the beggar's chicken, they stepped up to help to keep the utensils. Everyone except Gina was collecting the shattered eggshells together carefully. She held them in her arms and looked at Mag pleadingly. I want, are you still going to eat this mud casing, Gina?" Mag gazed at Gina. She already brought one eggshell upstairs as supper last night, and now she was still hugging one. Those who didn't know them would think that he was abusing his staff. Or maybe she had pica. Nuh-uh. Gina nodded before shaking her head again. She pointed at her mouth and then waved. Then, she pointed upstairs and made a keeping gesture. "You are going to keep them." Mag felt even more peculiar. What kind of collector mania was this? Gina nodded with a bright smile. Mag couldn't say no after seeing Gina's bright smile. He could only nod helplessly, and said, "Then keep them." The effect of dominating the delicious cuisine rankings was even more exaggerated at night. The line in front of Mamie Restaurant already folded 3 times in the square, and consisted of at least 700 to 800 people. The roast chicken duel that afternoon had reversed the reviews of Mamie Restaurant. Some pedestrians had also begun to speak out for Mamie Restaurant. Deducting those who just come to have a look, we can only receive up to 400 customers tonight. Mia, please ask the customers lining up behind the 400th person to disperse. They won't be able to get into the restaurant even if they stay. Mag frowned as he looked at the snaking line outside. He actually didn't quite like this crowded scene. Majority of the customers who came today were only curious, but they deprived the regulars of their seats. However, he couldn't comment on that. The restaurant didn't have a reservation system. The rule was first come first serve, so even a regular had to line up. All right. Yabimiya went out with a sign. After counting 400 people, she put up the sign next to the 400th customer, and started to persuade the customers behind to quit lining up. Is this that restaurant? It has to be, or why else are there so many idiots lining up? Our king has said that this boss is a great cook, so we will kidnap him to cook for us every day. Hey, the king's idea is rather good. In a corner, two demons with bull heads whispered to each other as they looked toward Mamie restaurant with excitement. However, there are so many people here, how can we act? The king told us to keep a low profile and not to create a hoo-ha. Are you stupid? Of course we cannot act in front of so many people. We will spend a night here. There won't be a single person here when we wake up. That will be the time that we take action. Oh, yes. You are so clever, Dasha. The two bull-headed demons lowered their heads and fell asleep in the bushy corner. Today's new product, Beggar's Chicken. Apart from the enlarged menu next to the restaurant's entrance, there was also a little sign. The news of Mag's duel with the Orc brothers that afternoon had already spread. The taste of Beggar's Chicken was described as heavenly, and had piqued the curiosity of many. Beggar's Chicken? What kind of chicken is that? A chicken that is reared by a beggar. Krasus sat and flipped through the menu for a while before he nodded, and said, interesting, I will have one of those. His appetite had become better since he began to eat at Mamie restaurant. Even the meat products that he had given up previously became something he frequently ordered now. At first, he was still worried that he wouldn't be able to teach Amy for long, but now he was confident that he could train Amy to become the greatest close combat magic caster to ever live on the Norland continent. He most likely wouldn't die before that happened. I will have one too, Urian said in his hoarse voice as he gazed at Krasu challengingly. This beggar's chicken is super delish. However, that could be too much for the two of you. If my two masters can't finish them, your precious disciple can always share the burden with you, Amy said with her eyes blinking away as she came up. She looked just like a good disciple who was willing to share her master's burden. All right, then Amy will help me eat half of it, Krasu said with an indulgent smile. Master Krasu, you are so nice. Amy said happily. Give me another one just for little Amy. Urian raised up a finger coolly. He even ordered a beggar's chicken with the attitude of a great master. Wow! Master Urian, I love you. Little stars had lit up in Amy's eyes. Krasu glanced at Urian as he pursed his lips, and said, give me another 10 for Amy's supper. 10, this is too blissful. Amy clasped her hands with a blissful expression. This beggar's chicken costs 1,500 copper coins each. Do they play around with money? What do you know? These two are the legendary great magic casters, the Lord of Ice and the Lord of Fire. What is buying 10 roast chickens to them as long as little boss is happy? I am so envious. I also want to have a master like this. My master would only snatch my drumsticks from me. The customers looked at this scene enviously, and yet they were also worried at the same time that the two magic casters could buy up all the beggar's chickens as they tried to outdo each other. However, nobody dared to say a word. They were the legendary great magic casters. Would there be anyone who dared to snatch the roast chickens from them? Mag saw that scene from the kitchen. He walked up, and helplessly said to Amy, Amy, you have already eaten enough for tonight. No more food for you. All right. Amy slouched her shoulders disappointedly. Then, she shook her head at Krasu and Urian. Masters, you can treat me in the future. The night fell and the customers had left. The busy Mamie restaurant was quiet again. A cold breeze blew across, and a bull-headed person sneezed. He raised his head and gazed around his surroundings in a daze. Then, his eyes snapped fully open, and he kicked the other bull-headed person's butt. Ersha, wake up! It's time to act. You are right. Dasha nodded, but then he quickly shook his head. No way. The king said we only have 3 days to do this. We've already spent 1 day on the road. If we don't get him out of the city today, we won't be able to make it in time. Then, what do you think we should do? The door's already locked, Ersha said in panic. We are not here for a meal, who cares if the door is locked? We can just kick it open. It's also easier to kidnap him in the middle of the night. Dasha slapped Ersha on his head and smiled. You are right. Ersha nodded with a sheepish smile. The door of this restaurant was just a wooden door which didn't look very secure. He was a 4th-tier Minotaur demon who could easily send 10 doors like it flying with 1 kick. Dasha was watching leisurely at the side. The king was wasting resources by sending the 2 of them to capture a human cook. They couldn't even have a good night's sleep. Ersha's kick on the wooden door seemed to have landed on a piece of iron. The wooden door didn't move an inch, but his leg was already numb from the impact. This wooden door is made of iron. Ersha mumbled, stunned. Did you forget to eat dinner, Ersha? You can't even kick open a lousy door like this. Dasha laughed at Ersha who still had his foot on the door. He was prepared to push him away and do it himself. A 4th-tier attack was detected. Analysis: the intruder's abilities are too low. Threat level is 0. No need to inform the host. Activate automatic defense system. Activate rebound technique, rebounds by 10 times. A line of words as tiny as ants flashed across the deep part of Mag's mind. A green light flashed over the wooden door. Ersha, who was about to retrieve his right leg, felt a scary force on his foot, just as if he had been kicked. He became a parabola and landed on a grass patch 20 to 30 meters away. Ayo! Ersha's shrieks could be heard. Dasha blinked, but he still didn't understand what had happened. Ersha was kicking the door and ended up sending himself flying. He turned and ran over to Ersha when he heard his screams. Ersha! Dasha dragged Ersha out of the grass and looked at his right leg that was already deformed. Ersha, what are you doing? How did you get yourself into this, you dumbass? He said in shock. Ersha grabbed his leg with a painful expression, and said, that door, it kicked me. Let me have a look. Dasha squatted down and started to twist around blindly. He successfully twisted off Ersha's broken leg totally. Dasha stood up and wiped away the sweat on his forehead as he faced Ersha, who looked very pale, and said, you should feel better like this. The pain is less obvious. Ersha nodded. That's good. Dasha was relieved. He picked a big rock from the side and walked toward Mamie restaurant furiously. Dumbass, how dare you hurt my brother? I will smash you into smithereens. Dang! The rock crashed into the door and made a thud sound. Then, that rock crashed into Dasha's head with an even faster speed, and sent him back next to Ersha. Dasha, are you okay? Ersha asked Dasha, who was still lying on the ground, in panic. I am still okay. Can you feel whether my head is still on my neck? Dasha asked dizzily. Your head is still there, but your horn. Ersha looked at the half of a bull horn left on Dasha's head before he swallowed his saliva. Your horn is gone, what? My horn. Dasha's eyes flicked open, and he saw that broken half of his horn. His eyes rolled up and he fainted straight away. Dasha! Dasha! Ersha crawled over and patted Dasha's face. He looked at the restaurant with a woebegone look. That door is possessed. I have to report this incident to the king. Roth Empire. The Royal Palace. In a resplendent hall, the king of Roth sat on the high throne, and the first prince, Sean, and the second prince, Josh, stood below it. There were only 3 people in the great hall. The 3 most exalted people in the Roth Empire. The current ruler and the future ruler all stood here today. Just 2 more months before the 8 species have to renegotiate the new peace treaty. How do you 2 think Roth Empire should go about the negotiation? The king asked the 2 of them calmly. Sean took a glance at Josh before he clasped his hands together, and said, "Your son believes that after 100 years of development, our Roth Empire's power has far exceeded all the other species, except the giant dragons. We shouldn't renew this peace treaty. Instead, we should take this opportunity to expand the territory of the Roth Empire to the entire Norland continent." There wasn't any change in the king's expression, but his hand that was holding 2 spheres clutched a little tighter. "I do not agree with my royal brother." Josh stepped forward, and said to the king, "Father, although our Roth Empire was getting stronger in the past few years, and is stronger than the usual species, it's still too early for us to conquer the entire Norland continent. Even though the giant dragon tribe is not united, they would never sit aside and watch us conquer the Norland continent. Furthermore, there were many alliances forming among the species recently. If the Roth Empire goes to war with 2 species simultaneously, I am afraid we cannot win easily. Hence, your son believes it's still too early to talk about conquering the Norland continent now. We should renew this peace treaty. However, we should ask for the reassignment of territory. Given our Roth Empire's powerful strength, we should be entitled to a wider area. Those weaker species will cede some to us if they want to avoid a racial war. Subduing the enemy without fighting is the best outcome. Territory isn't something that could be gained via talking," Sean said to Josh in a sarcastic tone. "Even those goblins hiding underground wouldn't cede their territory so easily. War is the only method to reassign Norland continent's territory. The iron hooves of the Roth Empire will flatten all our enemies. The number of sorcerers in Magus Tower is increasing rapidly now, and their power has improved tremendously in the past few years. Given enough time, they will become the strongest combat power in the Empire," Josh said to Sean, tit for tat. "That's enough." The king's deep voice interrupted their argument. His lips curled in a smile. "You 2 seem to have forgotten about one person." Sean's and Josh's demeanor changed slightly. Obviously, they had not forgotten. "Tomorrow, I will make it known across the world that as long as he returns to the Roth Empire, he will become the military's commander-in-chief. I dreamt that the kindest person tripped and fell last night. And then. So, I decided to ask you after I woke up. Does it hurt?" Amy reached out and touched Mag's head with her little hand with a worried expression. Mag felt his heart tremble. Why was this little one so sweet early in the morning? It warmed the cockles of his heart. He raised his arms with a blissful smile, and said, "Father is all right. Although I had a fall, I leaped up before I even touched the ground. See, I am totally fine. It's fantastic that Father is all right." A smile appeared on Amy's face too. "All right, Father will get up and make breakfast for you now." Mag patted the little one's head and got out of bed. He went down after he washed up. Then, he noticed the system's video recording in his brain. Mag tapped open the video recording as he drank a cup of water. In the video recording, 2 Minotaur demons were attacking the restaurant, but they were repelled by the restaurant's defense system. Mag almost choked on the water he was drinking. These 2 stupid thieves came in the middle of the night? But system, your rebound technique is rather interesting. Mag, who finally managed to stop choking, praised the system in his mind. Too bad there wasn't internet in this world, or else this video would definitely go viral. Putting down the glass, Mag went to take a look at the door that was kicked and smashed last night. A letter fell down from the handle the moment he opened the door. "What's going on?" Mag asked. Mag picked up the envelope. On the green envelope, a graceful handwriting wrote, to Mr. Mag, private and confidential. Someone wrote a letter to me? I do not have any friends I need to communicate with by mail. Mag was puzzled. The handwriting seemed to belong to a woman. He prepared to tear open the envelope as he mumbled, "This shouldn't be a love letter, I guess. Did someone write a love letter to father?" Amy, who suddenly appeared downstairs, popped over and stared at the letter in Mag's hands curiously. "No, no. This is just a normal letter." Mag shook his head rapidly. Although he was very touched earlier, this little one was still undeniably a spy. Some words couldn't reach Irina's ears, or else it would be inexplicable. "It's okay, father. I won't tell big sister Irina." "Read to me what is in the letter," Amy pleaded as she shook Mag's arm. Okay. I'll read it." Mag relented due to Amy's shaking. He tore open the envelope and began to read, "Mr. Mag, I love you." Mag could only read one line. He couldn't continue with the rest of the words. This is really a **king love letter. Shouldn't a professional love letter start by expressing the person's unrequited lovesickness before expressing his affection reservedly, followed by an appropriate ending? Who would go straight to the point immediately? This kind of standard. Only a primary school kid could have written it, right? Mag's complaining spirit had begun to go into a frenzy. However, talking about love letters, he remembered that in his younger days, he had a crush on a little girl with a ponytail sitting in front of him. After suppressing his lovesickness for 3 days, he couldn't help but begin to write a love letter. He could still remember the content vaguely. "Oh, my Juliet, all right." Mag didn't want to reminisce too much. Anyway, he was indeed shocked by this straightforward opening. It's really a love letter. Who could have written it? Maybe she hopes to be my mother. Amy looked at the letter in Mag's hands curiously. Many people had appeared in her head. Big sister Gina doesn't know how to write. Big sister Mia, big sister Elizabeth, big sister Bablat, big sister Firis, big sister Gloria, teacher Luna, big sister Sheer, and big sister Shirley. All of them seemed to be interested in father, so who wrote this love letter? Big sister Irina has so many love rivals. What do I do? Amy mumbled softly with a difficult expression. Amy, this could just be a prank. What era are we in now? Who in her right mind would write a love letter? It's so outdated. Ha ha ha, Mag laughed in a polite yet awkward manner. Even though he was actually also very curious who wrote this, a chill traveled up his back as he heard Amy's murmur. If this got into Irina's ears, who knew how many punishments would be waiting for him? "It's fine, father. I will find the person who wrote you this love letter," Amy consoled with a smile. "I'm more afraid of you like this." Mag mused in his heart. As usual, Firis was the first to reach the restaurant. Amy went to Firis immediately the moment she stepped in. Smiling, she asked, "Big sister Bean Sprout, do you like father?" "Ah!" Firis was stunned. When she regained her wits and realized what Amy was asking, she blushed instantly. She glanced at Mag, who seemed to have lost all his hopes of living at the side, and quickly retrieved her gaze. She tugged at her skirt as she shyly said, I. Boss is a very nice person. I think everyone will like him." "So, you mean that you like my father, right?" Amy blinked as she softly mumbled, "I treat you like my big sister, but you actually want to be my mother?" I did not." Firis's face was as red as an apple. She was so embarrassed that she wanted to hide in between crevices on the floor. "Then, did you write a love letter to father?" Amy continued to ask. "Love letter?" Firis was stunned again, but she quickly shook her head decisively this time. "No, all right, I believe you." Amy nodded with disappointment. "Someone wrote a love letter to Mr. Mag? Who is targeting Mr. Mag this time?" Firis went into the kitchen. She felt as if someone had suspended her heart. Then, Mia, Elizabeth, and Babla began to arrive at the restaurant. Big Sister Mia, Big Sister Elizabeth, and Big Sister Babla, do you like father? Amy asked the three of them. I do. I super like boss. Mia nodded with a serious expression. Elizabeth glanced at Mag. He is a good man. Babla glanced at Mag too before she coughed softly, and said, I will never like men. Then, did you write a love letter to him? Amy continued to ask. Chapter 1045 I only like him. Secretly in my heart. The three of them stared at Mag in shock. Mag shrugged to imply that he also had no idea what was going on. Then, the three of them looked at one another again searchingly. Although they didn't feel anything in their daily interaction, on second thought, Mag was indeed a rather good man. He was handsome, mature in appearance, and much gentler than those young lads. He was kind, responsible, and even had a cute little daughter. They wouldn't even have to consider giving birth to children if they married him. Could he be even more perfect? Of course, the most important was his superb culinary skill. He kept creating delicacies, so if they married him, nothing would be more blissful than that. With that in mind, even Elizabeth gave Mag extra 2 looks. No way. I am going to be the leader of the Frost Dragon tribe. I have to be single, or else I will waste plenty of precious time that I can use to practice. Elizabeth shook her head to calm herself down. Furthermore, giant dragons could live for thousands of years. Humans can only live for the maximum of 100 years. We are simply not meant to be. If I could marry boss, that would be so blissful. Little stars appeared in Yabimia's eyes. But, soon her eyes lost the sparkle. But, I am not good at anything, nor am I pretty. Furthermore, I am an orphan. I am not good enough for boss. Such a regret. Marry him? A hint of contemplation appeared in Babla's eyes, but she quickly shook her head. No way. He is just a commoner, and I am the princess of Moon Nation. Father would definitely not agree to this marriage. But, why do I feel a tinge of regret? Maybe if father tried the delicacies that he made, he would change his mind? No. Why am I thinking about something like this? I am the princess of Moon Nation. But, the beef kebab is really very tasty. I won't get to eat it if I return to Moon Nation, right? Babla fell into the dilemma of whether she should agree. Maybe it's just a prank. Mag swiftly smoothed things over. Although he had no idea who wrote the love letter, asking people around if they liked him was simply a little too weird. Morning, Uncle Mag, Amy, and Big Sisters. Right at this moment, Anna and Shirley came in and greeted everyone. Mag stared at the hat, which had 2 wires attached, on Anna's head and curiously asked, Anna, what's that on your head? Maybe this little cutie was trying cosplay Teletubbies today? This is the bunny hat that Big Sister Shirley bought me, Anna said happily as she pressed next to her ear. The 2 columns trembled, and suddenly 2 little chicks' heads popped out of them and let out a loud cry. Wow! That's awesome! Amy's eyes lit up as she clapped. Haha! It's weird but rather cute. All the ladies looked at Anna's hat in amazement. Shirley's chin tilted up slightly. Although her expression was calm, her slightly curled up lips betrayed her current feelings of pride. This is truly one of a kind among the bunny hats. Mag opened his mouth, not knowing how to praise her. Amy quickly got back to the topic and curiously asked the 2 of them, Big Sister Shirley, Big Sister Anna, do you like my father? Did you write him a love letter? Love letter? But I am still a child. Anna shook her head regretfully. Shirley looked at Mag as her lips curled slightly, and revealed a mysterious smile. Shaking her head, she said, I don't like men, especially men who have facial hair. All the ladies started to wonder as soon as she said that, and began to move away from her. Shirley glanced at the ladies, and lightly said, "I don't like women, either." Everyone gave her a side glance. She didn't like either men or women, so what did she like? "Then, you like transvestites?" Amy asked curiously. "Why would I?" Shirley almost choked as she stared at the innocent Amy. Looking at her, she was reminded of how she felt as she looked at Princess Irina in the past. She couldn't get angry with her, so she could only sigh. "I only like myself. A person as beautiful as me most likely won't fall in love with anyone else in this lifetime." Chet. Everyone rolled their eyes. They had seen narcissistic people before, but none was as hopelessly narcissistic as her. Judging from their behavior, Mag had basically ruled out everyone present as suspects. If it was indeed one of the ladies who did it, they didn't have to leave it at the door. They could easily find an opportunity to slip it into his pocket. Wasn't that even simpler and more straightforward? In this case, the suspect was probably not within the restaurant. Till now, Mag had already lost count on the people that had professed their love for him. There were over 100 of them who were women, and that was excluding the men. Hence, this clue was useless. Of course, Mag wasn't really very curious about the person who wrote him the love letter. After all, if all the people who called him hubby in his previous life were to hold hands and stand together, they would be able to circle the earth. He would die of exhaustion if he really wanted to care. Furthermore, if the girl who wrote this love letter wasn't playing a prank, she would appear sooner or later. He was right here. She wouldn't skip over him. "Madam, you didn't sign your name on that love letter you wrote, how would he know it's you who wrote it?" "If he doesn't know, won't we be wasting our effort?" the black cat servant asked Camilla worriedly. An evil smile appeared on Camilla's face as she licked her red lips. "Not letting him know who is my motive. I am going to mess with his heart with this letter. I want him to think that there's really someone close to him who likes him. This stinky man would definitely go and find who wrote him the love letter, maybe he would do something even more drastic. As long as he reveals his true colors to Miss Gloria, everything will be solved. You had said that you want to personally, that would be too good for that stinky man. Furthermore, it's not time for me to get into the ring yet. I have plenty of methods to deal with this kind of stinky man," Camilla said with confidence. "Gloria, do you like my father?" Gloria's expression changed and she began to stutter. You knew? I only like him, secretly in my heart. Chapter 1046. That old dog is so terrifyingly vicious. Everyone looked at Gloria, who answered Amy's question in a fluster, in shock. "No, Boss Mag is mine." The ladies were all nervous, but when they looked at Gloria's unparalleled beauty and elegance, they felt a little defeated. No one knew which family this young mistress came from, but whether it was her looks or her charisma, she was indeed very compatible with Boss Mag. Even their height matched very well, making the others envious. Boss Mag is simply a goddess collector. That's too much. Exactly. There are already so many beauties in this restaurant, but Boss Mag wouldn't even let a customer off. What a monster. The men all looked angry and dejected. "You like me?" Mag was also a little shocked. He felt a strange feeling inside when he saw Gloria, who was blushing and looking down, afraid to even look at him. Gloria was indeed a very beautiful woman. Her beauty could even be compared to Irina's. She had a quiet and obedient demeanor, but made one unable to overlook her. She was meticulous, so people would feel comfortable interacting with her. If it was in his previous life, she would be on the top of Mag's list of people he was interested in. However, he was no longer the playboy of the past. Now, he had Amy and also a legitimate wife, Irina. Theirs was a very remarkable bond. He had only met Irina a few times, but they'd been through a life and death experience together. That woman had a strong character, but would show her gentle side to Amy, and still left an unerasable mark in his heart. He did not know if he had already fallen in love with her, and could not be certain if she would be the one for him in the future. However, before bringing her back from the wind forest and allowing her to be really free, he probably would not consider dating another woman. Otherwise, that would make him feel like scum. Although he had never labeled himself as a good guy before, he really wanted to be a good father, one that Amy could be proud of. No. This can't be. It's not written like that in the script. Camilla's face lost color. She gripped her chest in pain. This love letter seemed to have helped him. The black cat servant swallowed hard, similarly dumbfounded. If he agrees to it, what comes next will be the two willing parties holding hands as they walk down the aisle? No. I will never let that happen. A large black bludgeon appeared in Camilla's hand as she stared furiously at Mag. Madam, don't be rash. This is Chaos City. Besides, if you were to kill him in front of young mistress, she would definitely hate you for life. The black cat quickly pulled Camilla back. Then am I to just watch them get together? Camilla stomped her foot angrily. Let's watch for a while more. Gosh! What did I say? I actually said I like Mr. Mag. Gloria, who was blushing very badly, was at a loss for what to do. She had something on her mind when she came in, so when Amy asked her, what came out was a Freudian slip. She only wished to hide in a hole when she felt all those gazes on her. Would Mr. Mag think that I am a weird person? He wouldn't dislike me, right? Would we not be able to even be friends anymore? She did not dare to look up at Mag, and her mind was in a mess full of worries. She was so anxious she was about to cry. It's okay, big sister Gloria. You are so good looking, so I won't find it hard to accept even if you want to be my mother, Amy consoled her. Wow, even little boss acknowledged her. There was an uproar at the entrance of the restaurant suddenly. Of course, there were also women shrieking. Gloria blushed even more. However, this made her become a little hopeful. If Amy were to consent. Just then, Mag took a step forward and asked the customers at the entrance, do all of you like me? Boss Mag, we love you. Boss Mag, I want to have your baby. The women shrieked and expressed their love passionately. Among them were also some men, orcs, and demons. It seems like everyone really likes the food I make indeed. I like you guys too, Mag said with a smile. After that, he looked at Gloria, and said, Gloria, do you still want tofu pudding today? You would order that every time you come. It seems like you really like it. Hum. A hint of disappointment flashed past Gloria's eyes. However, she quickly nodded and wore a smile on her face again. She nodded at Mag, and said, yes, Mr. Mag's tofu pudding is irresistible. Thank you for the praise. Mag also nodded with a smile. That's great. Why do we have to make things so complicated? Even if they couldn't date, they could still continue to be friends. Has he lost his marbles? Camilla, who almost rushed out with the bludgeon, paused in her steps and looked at Mag in shock. Exactly, it was such a good opportunity put right in front of him. All he had to do was nod, and everything would happen naturally, but he actually rejected it. The black cat was also dumbfounded. It seems like I've underestimated him. With his intelligence, I'm afraid a normal method would not work. We have to use some unusual tactics. Camilla kept the bludgeon in her hand. Unusual tactics? Yes. Camilla nodded and started to pull things out. Rope, whip, candle, the black cat stood at the side, taking note of the various things Camilla pulled out. On this day, an announcement published from the Roth Empire spread throughout the Norland continent. The announcement was very short, but its content caused a commotion. General Alex was promoted to become the Roth Empire's Grand Marshal. This announcement was sent to the higher UPS of the various species at the fastest speed. At the same time, it had also made the headlines of various magazines and newspapers. Bulsh*T They were the ones who almost killed Alex back then. Now that he's back, how would he possibly risk his life for them again? Andre, that old dog, is so terrifyingly vicious, the king of the dwarves said angrily as he threw the letter in his hand on the floor. Andre, that old dog, is scheming indeed. Even though he was uncertain if Alex would agree to it, by coming up with this before the negotiations, no one would ignore Alex's existence. The high priest of the goblins looked at the letter in his hand with a face full of worries. This stupid old fart and his wishful thinking. Mag's lips twitched as he looked at the headlines of the newspaper in his hand. After that, he casually threw it into the trash can. But right now, the king wanted to hand this powerful position over to Alex, which was a very strange move. However, Mag was not an ignorant fool who just came to this world, after all. He could guess what the king of the Roth Empire was scheming. So, even if Andre handed him the position of king right now to make him return to Rodu, he would not take it, either. Although it had been ascertained that the assassination on that rainy night more than 3 years ago was a ploy set up by Josh, the Orcs, and the Elves, that place was Rodu, after all. With so many 10th-tier experts involved and the connection with the army completely cut, Mag thought that it would really be an insult to his IQ if he were to believe that Andre did not know about it at all. Besides, the royal palace seemed to be involved in Sean's collusion with the demons to kill Irina at Rodu the last time. Sean and Josh might be fighting their heads off on stage, but what Mag really cared about was the king, who did not show any emotions. That old man was very vicious. The reason why he suddenly announced the offer to make him the Grand Marshal of the army at this timing was not difficult to guess if one put some thought into it. In order to save Irina previously, he killed the creator of spatial magic, and publicly announced his comeback, causing an uproar once again. The title number 1 Knight of the Norland continent was not just an empty name. It represented absolute power and full command in the army. In 2 months, there would be a peace negotiation held in the Norland continent. If the negotiations could proceed on the negotiation table, he would become the Roth Empire's key bargaining chip. And if the negotiations fell through, the war between the races would start again. When that happened, his existence would make them wary. He would not even need to do anything. His name itself would suffice. Judging from how much Sean and Josh hated him, they would never raise such a suggestion to the king. That gave Mag a deeper insight into how crafty that old fox was. Andre, who sat on the throne quietly for decades, was the real jackal who hid its teeth compared to his impatient sons. That was a very good plan. According to his character, Alex would most likely silently agree to it on account of his affection for the Roth Empire. But he was not Alex. He was Mag. He would have to give those who made him unhappy their just desserts. Mag threw the newspaper into the trash can and rushed into the kitchen. Gina, Ferris, Anna, I'll head out for a while, he told the group as he pushed his bicycle out. In a sealed meeting room in the city lord's castle, 3 figures sat relatively far away from each other at a round table. The lights were dim and their faces were solemn. It seems like King Andre does not intend to continue with the original peace agreement. Even if he doesn't start a war, he will most likely request to redraw the borders, Michael said seriously. It's not just Andre. The demons, the orcs, the forest trolls, and the elves. All the races that had risen in strength in the recent century would all want to redraw the borders. Back then, it was the demons who were the most aggressive. They only backed down after Benson and the other 10th-tier experts were killed by Alex and Irina, Lord Roland of the Grey Temple said in a low tone. We've already expected this, but we just didn't think that he would push Alex into the limelight. We were all still guessing if Alex would return to the Roth Empire. After all, the king and the royal family wouldn't be able to shirk off all responsibility for what happened back then, Novan said with a frown, looking worried. Michael also frowned. That would have to depend on Alex if he is willing to return to the Roth Empire. Once he returns, the split in the Roth Empire's army because of his sudden death back then will be erased, and it will become terrifyingly united. That is not good news for the other races. Judging from Alex's character, he will most probably not speak out about it. If it's a silent consent, the other races will have to consider him as part of the Roth Empire's army. If that's the case, other than the giant dragon tribe, no other race is stronger than the Roth Empire, and they will have the upper hand in the peace negotiations in 2 months' time. That will become a very unfavorable situation to us, Roland said. Exactly. Although Alex is just an individual, judging from how the situation is in Norland continent now, he has become an individual that can upset the balance between the different races, Novan lamented. The goblins and the dwarves had already come to a secret alliance with us. They are currently the 2 weakest races in the Norland continent. If the peace negotiations are unable to go on smoothly this time, they will be forced to give up their land, or even be in danger of being attacked. The laying of the steam train tracks is in fast progress with the combined efforts of the 3 races, but it's still unknown how much bargaining power it can bring us, Michael said. Roland nodded, and solemnly said, Chaos City's stand is to work hard to keep all parties on the negotiation table. Once the negotiations fall through and war breaks out, Chaos City might be the prime target. Then all we can do now is to wait for Alex's response. I hope he won't let us down this time, Novan said with a smile. The response the entire Norland continent was waiting for came way quicker than expected. Howl! A loud sound echoed throughout the Dragon Islands and attracted all the attention of the giant dragons on the various islands. This familiar sound is... It's Alex's mount. Alex has appeared. Very quickly, a commotion rose on the Dragon Islands. The entire Norland continent was waiting for Alex's response to the Roth King's command, but he ended up appearing in the Dragon Islands. The purple-striped griffin glided across the Dragon Islands proudly and landed at the central island, Glass Dragon Island. Alex, who was sitting on the griffin's back, held a sword in his hand as he carved out 2 rows of words on the glass dragon pillar, I'm not going to be the Grand Marshal. I want this world to be peaceful. Alex, the great elder of the Glass Dragon Island, only came running out angrily after that purple figure disappeared on the horizon, and pointed to the sky, scolding, Alex, you've asterisked carved words on my tribe's holy relic again. Don't run away if you have what it takes. Great elder, why didn't you stop him when he was still here? He's long gone now. Fool, if he wasn't long gone, would you dare to scold him? I've always only listened to my heart. Chapter 1048 Kill Alex. After many years, Alex came back to Glass Dragon Island and left word carvings on the glass dragon pillar again. However, this time, it was a public reply to Roth Empire's ground-shaking announcement. Alex's response was simple yet extremely arrogant. Very quickly, this response spread throughout the Norland continent with lightning speed, causing a huge commotion. Ha ha ha, that's Alex for you. Andre, that old dog, must be looking very bad right now. In the dwarves' palace, the king of the dwarves laughed heartily as he looked at the news he just received. The great magic caster trio of Chaos City gathered twice in a day. This was really a piece of unexpected but good news. It seems like we should get in contact with Alex. After all, we have the same goal, Michael said with a smile. I chased that fellow with a knife down 18 streets back then. Roland smiled slightly. And a year later, he chased you with a knife down 36 streets, Novan said. The meeting room echoed with laughter. In a restaurant of Rodeux in the Roth Empire. Have you heard? Alex said that he refused to be the Empire's Grand Marshal, a fatty said softly. I just wanted to talk about this. I have a friend from the information center, and according to the latest news, Alex went to Glass Dragon Island and left 2 rows of words on the glass dragon pillar there. Guess what he wrote? A skinny middle-aged man said secretively. What is it? The people in the restaurants could not help but pause in their actions and listen intently when they heard him. I'm not going to be the Grand Marshal. I want this world to be peaceful. That man lowered his voice when he said that. Hiss! Suddenly, the entire restaurant was filled with the sound people taking a breath in. When they heard that Master Alex was made the Grand Marshal, the entire Roth Empire was excited over the news. Their god of battle would be back once again to protect the Roth Empire. It was such exciting news for many. However, in just half a day, there was a piece of news spreading around Rodu that gave everyone a slap on their faces. The so-called promotion was just wishful thinking on the king's part. Alex had personally responded that he would reject the role of the Grand Marshal, without leaving any face for the king. Could it be possible that Master Alex is no longer protecting the Roth Empire? Someone choked on his words as disappointment engulfed him. Everyone present had a similar expression and emotions. Once, Alex, who had never lost a battle, was the pride of the Roth Empire. He was the reason why every human could walk in front of the other races with their heads held high. But right now, they could not. SHH. Don't you want your lives? How dare you say things like that here? Several news agencies have already received the notice to never mention anything about this. Otherwise, they would all be caught and beheaded, a middle-aged man wearing a long robe chided them softly. It's my fault. I just mentioned it casually. Don't take my word for it. I still have something at home. I'll be off first. The face of the middle-aged man who spoke previously changed drastically, and he scooted off with a random excuse. The face of everyone else who heard that also changed. They quickly footed the bill and left, afraid of bringing trouble upon themselves. Similar incidents kept happening in different parts of Rodu. Although not everyone knew the details, the news of Alex rejecting the role of Grand Marshal still spread quickly throughout Rodu and became an open secret. In the palace, both princes, tens of military officials, and Richard, the president of the Magus Tower, stood solemnly. The news that they received a few hours ago made all their faces black. No one would expect Alex's response to be so direct and resolute. Scum! This Alex dares to be so arrogant. He has no respect for father at all, and made the Roth Empire a joke. In the palace, Sean looked at the king and said without hiding his anger, "Father, I think that we should send out an order to kill Alex. That would be the only way to gain back some of the Roth Empire's pride." However, he was secretly a little happy. "Father, I agree with brother on this. If we do not do something to punish Alex, the Roth Empire will not be able to hold its head up high." In the meeting 2 months later, Josh also said solemnly. The other military officials in the palace also showed their support for the two princes. They wanted Alex to pay the price to display their country's might. The group became very passionate, and it seemed as though they only needed the king's order to bring back Alex's head. "Your Highnesses and fellow officials, the general does make some sense." Alex's words dismissed His Majesty's orders and shamed the Roth Empire. It is indeed an unpardonable crime. An elderly official who was standing in the corner took a step forward, and coldly asked everyone, "However, if His Majesty really orders Alex to be killed, may I ask, who here will be able to kill him? Who will have the confidence to kill him before the negotiations in 2 months? How many top soldiers from the military and the Magus Tower will need to be sacrificed in order to kill him? May I ask if everyone has considered these issues?" The moment the elderly official said that, everyone fell silent. Many people wanted to kill Alex. However, after so many years, other than that very meticulously planned assassination on that rainy night 3 years ago, no one had ever succeeded, yet the assassins and killers who died in his hands were countless. Even that assassination 3 years ago required all the factors to be favorable. Moreover, in that situation where more than 10 10th-tier experts were mobilized and Alex's daughter was held hostage, he still did not die. In that case, killing him would seem impossible since they did not even know what he looked like or where he was. Even if they sent all the 10th-tier experts from the military and the Magus Tower, as long as they were unable to surround and corner him, those who found him first would only be killed. Back then, Alex roamed the land, and everyone here did not have a very strong concept of how powerful he was. Right now, he was on the Empire's opposing side. His might became the entire Empire's headache. The hall fell quiet. Even Sean and Josh were silent. Who said that I want to kill him? As long as he's still alive, the mark the Roth Empire has on him would never be erased. He will still be the guardian of the Roth Empire. Will he really be able to watch the Roth Empire fall? Andrei, who had not spoken all the while, said with a cold smile. However, there was a bit of murderous quality in that smile. Chapter 1049 Irina, I personally take a trip to Chaos City at the border of the Wind Forest where the rebellion elves set up their temporary camp. An elf walked quickly into the largest tent, and when he saw Irina, who was looking at a map, he said with delight, "Your Highness, we have come to an agreement with the goblins. We were given permission to build our base at the crypt in the Geta mountain area." "What news?" Irina asked. "This morning, the king of the Roth Empire made Alex the military's Grand Marshal. That must be a piece of fake news that the old dog released to give himself more bargaining chips for the meeting 2 months later." Irina scoffed. "A pity Alex is a fool. He would definitely stay quiet about this, and that old dog is certain of that." "No, Master Alex responded." That elf shook his head. "Responded?" Irina raised her tone a little. No one would understand Alex more than her in this world. How was it possible that he would give a response to something like this? He didn't agree to it, did he? Irina was uncertain. She would not be too shocked if that happened. That elf shook his head, and said with some admiration, "No, Master Alex rode the purple-striped griffin to Glass Dragon Island and wrote, 'I'm not going to be the Grand Marshal. I want this world to be peaceful,' on the Glass Dragon pillar." Irina's mouth opened slightly. After the initial shock, she became even more surprised. Smiling, she said, "Has this fellow finally straightened out?" That elf looked at the smile on Irina's face, which had been gone for a very long time, and smiled. No one in the entire Norland continent was unaware of the relationship between the princess and Master Alex. She gave up her noble status, the chance for her freedom, and happily ever after with Alex to start this uprising for the elves living at the bottom of the hierarchy, the slaves. She was even willing to lead them into the dark crypt. This sacrifice was the reason all the elves who left the Wind Forest were willing to follow her till their death. "Hold on, I still have something for you," Irina called the elf, who was about to leave quietly, back. She walked to the table quickly and swiftly wrote a letter. She folded it nicely and sealed it up before handing it to that elf with a smile as she said, "Send this letter to the owner of the Grey Temple in Chaos City. There are some things to be made known now." "Yes." That elf held the letter tightly in his hands and turned to walk out. However, just as he was about to step out of the tent, Irina suddenly called him back again. "I think it's better if I personally take a trip to Chaos City." The purple-striped griffin landed on the peak of a mountain. Mag stroked Ozzy's head and told it to return. Howl Ozzy used its head to rub against Mag's hand reluctantly before it walked into a cave while turning its head back time and again. That made Mag feel a little bad. "Ozzy, I'll bring some yummy food for you next time," he shouted towards the cave. "Howl!" Ozzy peeked its head out and howled excitedly at Mag. Mag smiled and descended the mountain. After that, he retrieved his bicycle and rode in the direction of Chaos City. He had unleashed his Oscar-level performance, portraying the arrogance and charisma of a 10th-tier expert to the extreme. However, that was also because Alex had accumulated enough awe, so he could still fake it till he made it. He was also very satisfied with those 2 lines that he came up with along the way. The first line was to give Andrei a slap in his face, and the next was to state his stand. That thrill made him even more eager to regain Alex's powers. Not long after he entered the city, Mag felt as though there was someone following him, and that made him very nervous. "Is it a stalker who is after my looks?" Mag frowned. He felt that things did not seem so simple. However, on second thought, such perverts would usually set eyes on drag queens like Shirley. They would usually get even more excited the moment she took off her pants. Could it be that I've blown my cover? Mag became even warier. Although he had always been very careful, and had never given himself away in front of living people, some people might link the time he left the city to what happened at the Dragon Tribe. Although it was almost impossible for people to make that connection, he could not help but think of the worst-case scenario just to play safe. From the breathing, this person doesn't seem very powerful, but is very good at stealth. I guess I have to find a small alley to deal with him. Mag glanced back slightly and turned to ride into a small alley at the side. Why isn't he going in the direction of the restaurant? A shadow appeared in a corner and disappeared quickly. Mag could feel the breathing following behind him. The alley twisted and turned into a narrower lane, and the walls beside rose higher. He smiled. This kind of place is best for sneaking an attack. He was curious to find out who was stalking him. The bicycle passed another alley, and was about to make a turn when suddenly, a huge bludgeon came smashing from that alley. Mag, who was caught off guard, thought of several ways he could avoid that bludgeon in an instant. However, because he could even act, the bludgeon came smashing towards his face. "Ha, you've finally landed in my hands." Before he fell unconscious, Mag heard that sentence and saw two long legs that came closer, as well as a pair of red. "Madam, what should we do now? Should we find somewhere to bury him?" the black cat servant asked softly as he appeared on top of the wall of the alley, looking at Mag. "No, there is such an obvious motive. It's easy to trace back to us. Besides, if I kill him, I won't get to taste delicious steak anymore." Camilla shook her head. She looked at Mag, who lay motionless on the ground, and smiled sinisterly. "All we need to do is make him feel like a pervert through and through, so that he would feel ashamed and that he is not fit for the pure and elegant Miss Gloria. Then, what should we do? Drag him away? Let's change the location. It's not too good to do such things outside." Camilla's smile became increasingly seductive. She turned and sashayed away. "Boss only said that he's going out for a while and went out with his bicycle. He didn't say where he was going." Firis shook her head. "They had no idea where Boss went to. Does father not want me anymore?" Amy pouted her mouth in grievance. Her father had never left on his own without telling her like this. How could that be? Boss loves little Amy so much, how could he not want you? He must be held back by something on the way, so he can't make it back in time, Yabimiya said with a smile as she stroked Amy's head. "There's still 5 minutes before business starts, but we're not even a third complete with the preparation of the ingredients. We haven't even made the food that needs to be prepared beforehand." "Even if Boss returned now, it would still be too late," Shirley said. "Then what should we do? There are so many customers lining up outside. If we were to tell them that the boss is not around and tell them to come back another time, would they wreck the restaurant?" Mia said worriedly. Elizabeth swept a glance at the line, and calmly said, "That is not a concern. As long as the two great magic casters don't take any action, the rest of them are not our match." "That would be very interesting," Babla rubbed her hands together excitedly as she looked at the customers in the line. Shirley looked at the long line and shook her head slightly. "It would affect the restaurant's reputation if we were to suddenly cease operations for no reason without any prior notice. We have to come up with a plan." When the rest heard that, they all frowned and considered their options. Killing all the customers, giving everyone a copper coin, hypnotizing them to think that they had already eaten. After a series of strange thoughts, Firis finally carefully said, "Perhaps I could make the beef kebab." Everyone looked at Firis with their eyes lit up. "That's right, Firis's beef kebab is already as good as the one Boss makes. Why don't we change our afternoon theme to beef kebab? That way, at least the customers in the line could still eat something," Yabimiya said with delight. Everyone agreed to Yabimiya's suggestion. Very quickly, there was a new notice at the restaurant's door: "The boss went out and has yet to return." This afternoon will be a beef kebab special. Each customer is limited to 2 kebabs. Once the notice was put out, there was a sudden commotion among the customers lining up. What's going on? Isn't a beef kebab special a bit too much? Although the beef kebab is good, it's too much to limit each customer to just 2. How is 2 enough? But, if Boss Mag isn't around, who is making the beef kebab? Mag woke up and heard some ruffling sounds. He opened his eyes and happened to see a pair of fair, ferocious-looking breasts swaying left and right in front of him. The headlights of this car keep swaying. Mag blinked, and when he got a clearer look, he saw a small black mole on the fair area, which made it a little sexier. Judging from how much the headlights were swaying, that should be at least an E-cup. Also, it looked completely natural. Otherwise, it would not be swaying so naturally. The memory of what happened before he lost consciousness surged into his mind. The small alley, the sudden bludgeon at the corner, and that was all. F***ck. Was I kidnapped? Mag raised his brow. He looked up and saw that seductive, familiar face that was almost sticking to his face. Countess Bartoli. Mag was surprised, but he was somehow expecting it. Ever since he came to this world, there were indeed few women he had seen with such large breasts. This vampire countess was one of them. Besides, Mag knew what her motive was. It was probably related to Gloria's unexpected confession this morning. He knew from a very long time ago that this countess was half a lesbian. After all, she had warned him twice before. What he did not expect was that he would actually be knocked unconscious and taken away by her. If others were to find out that Alex, who had just created a sensation in the Dragon Islands and rejected the role of the Roth Empire's Grand Marshal, was knocked unconscious and then dragged into a small black room. Mag shifted his gaze away from the swaying bosom, and finally noticed that he was lying on a bench with his hands over his head. The Countess's sexy and seductive legs were open and over him. Her tight black skirt made a beautiful curve at her perky bum. Her fair legs extended all the way to the split in her skirt, and he could faintly see some red. She was blushing and her forehead was filled with perspiration. Her unfocused and enchanting eyes were even more enticing. But, what was she doing? Was she giving him some benefits? Or was she trying to use him to correct her sexual orientation? Mag was a little dumbfounded. Although he was against it, his body was lying very obediently, and he even closed his eyes. However, at this moment, Mag could also feel a smooth rope sliding up and down his wrist. Is this some abduction play? Mag raised his brow. However, after going around his hands several times, the rope quickly slid off. She did not manage to successfully tie the rope around his hands, and her awkward movement gave Mag the urge to help her. F***ck. Why is this high-grade rope so difficult to tie up? I've been on it for half an hour already. How infuriating! Camilla's frustrated voice sounded, and she did not seem to have noticed that Mag had opened his eyes. Mag lay on the bench quietly with his eyes closed as the awkward scene in the little black room continued. Camilla was lying on Mag as she continued attempting to tie his hands up. Half an hour passed. Mag could not help but open his eyes. He looked at Camilla, and said, "Do you need help?" "Sure." "Ah." Camilla looked down at Mag, who had woken up, and froze. After a while, she said, "When did you wake up?" "It had been quite a while," Mag replied truthfully. He glanced towards the side and noticed the candle and whip on the chair at the side. This was a familiar set. "Humph, how dare you play dead in front of me? It seems like I have to knock you out again." A black bludgeon appeared in Camilla's hand once again. She muttered, "No, this time, he has to be aware that he is a masochist." Mag calculated quickly inside. Camilla was a 9th tier expert, while he was only at the peak of the 7th tier. He would definitely not be able to outfight her. But this cycle of being knocked out was not a way out. He had no idea what time it even was. Therefore, he lifted his hands and pointed at the thick red rope hanging loosely on his wrist, and smilingly said, "Countess, do you want to tie this rope? I'm good at it. I can teach you. You really know how to do it." Camilla did not really buy it. However, she had been trying for a very long time without any success just now, and she was already on the verge of mental breakdown. "Yes, it's very simple, actually. I can show you." Mag smiled. He got up and tied Camilla up quickly with the rope. 5 minutes later, Mag looked at Camilla, who was tied up with the red rope, and nodded his head with satisfaction. "Look, this is the perfect bondage."